Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. American Comics. Starting with The Making of the Laughing Bat. Chapter 81. The story in the light curtain is still going on. The perspective comes to Superman. Because Cyborg was abducted by Darkseid. Superman found Mr. Miracle Mr. and Big Barda. He hopes that the two can accompany him to Apokolips to save Cyborg. Both of them are alien super-powered people, and they have a deep connection with Darkseid of Apokolips. Just as the three were talking, bursts of heart-wrenching screams suddenly came from outside the window. Superman immediately flew out of the window to check. Then he was stunned by the scene in front of him. I saw that on the streets and alleys. There were crazy humans everywhere. They bit each other and howled like wild beasts. Any normal human will become the target of these crazy humans, and thus be attacked and torn. Flames shot up into the sky, and thick smoke continued to rise throughout the city. Superman realized that the situation was not good. The first person he thought of was his family. Joe, Louise. The scene turned again, this time to Superman's newly bought house. Inside the room, Lois was sitting at home bored. On the carpet, Superman, Joe and Batman's son Damian were playing games. The intense battle made them press the controllers until they crackled. It's almost time to clear. There is one last boss. At this critical moment, Louise's cell phone suddenly rang. Joe subconsciously wanted to answer it, but Damian stopped him. You are about to pass the level. Are you sure you want to be distracted now? Then our previous efforts will be in vain. Damian advised, you can use your X-ray vision to see first, maybe it's just a sales call. The two of them didn't know at this time. A terrifying new anti-life equation is spreading through the internet. Even as the son of Superman, if he comes into contact with the internet, he will be infected and become a violent zombie at this moment. After hesitating for a moment, Joe finally chose to pick up the phone. Just when he was about to check who called, outside the window, a red laser beam penetrated the glass and rushed in. It accurately destroyed the phone. Superman broke out of the window, his eyes full of red light. Dad, Joe exclaimed. In the real world, in the DC universe. Superman's son Joe looked at the screen and felt a palpitation. Fortunately I arrived in time, otherwise I would have turned into a zombie. Damian is really my good buddy, he saved my life. Inside the Batcave, Nightwing and Damian stood beside Batman. Nightwing grinned and said, Damian, your desire to win saved Superman's life. Otherwise, you might have to face a violent superhero zombie alone. Damian grinned, my heart was in my throat just now. The virus of the anti-life equation is so terrible. Anyone who sees electronic products will be infected. It's outrageous. Batman frowned and looked at the light screen. The zombie virus has spread, and I don't know what will happen to us now. Alfred comforted, Master, the manor has the most advanced anti-theft system, and it is difficult for zombies to break into our house. I'm not worried about zombies, Batman shook his head, I'm worried about us who use electronic products. Batman glanced at Nightwing and Damian vaguely. Young people nowadays like to check their phones when they go to the toilet. Inside the Dark Justice League base. Ever since he was captured and watched the video together, Constantine has become a part of the Dark Justice League. At this time, everyone is in a church. Mrs. Xanadu is still sitting on a carpet with a charlatan look. The other superheroes are discussing the zombies on the screen. Fortunately, I have never been interested in electronic products, Jason, the host of the Fire Demon Itligan, grinned. The internet is developing so rapidly now, I am afraid that the infection has spread beyond America to other regions. Raven stuck out his tongue, I will be traumatized when I play with my phone in the future. Do I need to buy a pair of goggles as a precaution? Zatanna said with a wry smile, goggles can't prevent the outbreak of the zombie virus. Constantine, don't you think so? Constantine was in a trance at this time. When he came to his senses, he quietly lit a cigarette. I am more worried about when Superman will be infected. Zombie Superman, just thinking about it makes me feel overwhelmed. In the screen, the scene continued. Clark, who broke into the window, shouted anxiously. Close your eyes. Don't look at the screen. The next second, in front of Damian and Joe's shocked eyes, Clark shot out the video game screen in front of them with a shot of Cyclops. Damian, who was about to defeat the boss, saw the TV explode. He was stunned on the spot. What happened? When he came to his senses, he found that it was his Uncle Clark who came. "Your parents are really strict," Damian complained to Joe. "You should come to my house to play in the future, Joe. My dad usually doesn't come home at night. In the real world's Batcave." Alfu looked at Damian with interest. From this point of view, the young Master Damian on the screen is not a fictional character. Young Master Damian does like to stay up all night, such as doing something he likes. Damian's serious face showed a trace of embarrassment. He didn't say anything. The picture on the screen was still playing. The camera turned, and this time the perspective came to the Batcave. Batman was sitting in front of the huge electronic screen. As a Dark Knight with strong insight, Batman opened the firewall as early as the beginning of the virus outbreak. Now the systems in the Batcave are all running locally and completely isolated from the internet. This also ensures that he is not infected. System, now conducting a disaster rehearsal simulation. How many people will be infected in this crisis? After a short wait, the system gave him an astonishing number. 600 million people. Batman's face revealed an extremely solemn expression. From the outbreak of the virus to now, only half an hour has passed. 600 million people have been infected worldwide. It is conceivable that what kind of desperate disaster will greet them next. The system continues to analyze. This digital biological virus will be uploaded to servers around the world within a few days. By then, all electronic devices on Earth will carry this virus. It is conceivable how terrible the subsequent infection will be. Batman was completely silent. At this moment, he suddenly thought of a problem that he had overlooked. Although the network system of the manor was blocked, the mobile communication can still be used normally. This means that other members of the Bat family. Without time to think, Batman immediately activated the electromagnetic pulse. The pulse beam covered the entire manor. All electronic equipment shut down wherever it passed. Then, two roars rang out in a room in Wayne Manor. The scene returns to Superman. After saving Joe and Damian, Superman tries to gather the Justice League. Things are worse than expected. We need to warn more people about the crisis that is happening. We need help. Damian took out the Bat walkie-talkie. But no matter how he shouted, he didn't get a response from Batman. This walkie-talkie is a special communication device left to me by my father. He said that no matter how urgent the situation was, he would not ignore it. I am very worried about my father's safety now. Everyone's expression became extremely solemn after hearing Damian's words. This sudden zombie crisis made them somewhat at a loss. Their sight returned to Wayne Manor again. At this time, the manor was dark. Batman walked inside the manor and kept shouting, "Alfred, Dick, Tim, are you all okay?" In the dark manor, you could hear a pin drop. It was so quiet that it made people's heart palpitate. Batman walked through corridors with a solemn expression. Until he saw a room with lights on. Batman rushed over, but saw the butler Alfu holding a fruit knife. He was confronting something in the house. "Master, they are inside." Batman followed Alfred's gaze and looked into the innermost part of the room. He saw two unknown creatures in the black shadows making low growls like wild beasts. They were covered in blood and had hideous faces. Their clothes were full of deep scratches that could be seen to the bone. When the two monsters poked their bodies out of the shadows, even the battle-hardened Batman was subconsciously stunned. The two monsters in front of him were Nightwing Dick and Robin Tim. Two generations of Robins from the Bat family. At this time, the two had become zombies. They opened their bloody mouths and rushed towards Batman. "Dick!" Batman yelled, but the zombie Dick didn't react at all. He pounced on Batman like a hungry leopard. Batman punched Dick away, and then kicked him to the ground. "Dick, listen to me. I don't want to hurt you." But in response to Batman, only the two more brutal attacks. Batman smashed Zombie Dick's jaw with one punch. But his chest was torn by Zombie Tim's claws. Batman tried to throw Tim to the ground, but Zombie Dick had already hugged his head. Sharp fingers scratched bloody marks on Batman's face. Finally, when the master was completely unprepared, two zombie bats threw him to the ground. Tim bit his shoulder, and the next second he tore a bloody wound. Zombie Dick hugged Batman tightly, and his broken jaw opened and closed. Like a broken mechanical puppet, it was creepy. Alfu stood there in a daze. He wanted to help Batman. But the chaotic battle and such a bloody scene. Alfu couldn't find any opportunity to intervene. However, at this most desperate moment, Batman, who was constantly bitten, broke out a huge will to survive. He pressed Zombie Dick under him and suddenly broke his neck. Then he controlled Tim. Alfred, Batman said in a low voice, go. Bring Mr. Freeze's battle suit down here. In the real world, the DC main universe, when the audience saw Batman being infected by the zombie Robins, their hearts sank to the bottom. According to common sense, once bitten by the zombie virus, there is no chance of survival. This means that Batman will inevitably become a zombie. My God, we lost a superhero just as the crisis began. The story of the hero's death is too despairing. Without Batman's leadership, can the Justice League still solve this crisis? I don't dare to look down, it's too cruel. Metropolis. Superman Clark looked at the light screen with a serious face. I didn't expect that Batman would experience such a huge change at the beginning of the story. Batman among the 7 giants became the first to fall. So who will be next? Clark's face was solemn, the cruelty of this death is beyond imagination. In the Batcave, Nightwing looked at Batman with an uneasy face. Mr. Wayne, Batman waved his hand to stop Nightwing from speaking. This crisis came too suddenly. It was unforeseeable that you and Tim were infected. Father, why did you ask Alfred to take Mr. Freeze's uniform? Damian looked puzzled. Batman said in a low voice, Mr. Freeze's uniform has the function of freezing and reducing metabolism. I think I want to delay the outbreak of the zombie virus in my body. Star City, Green Arrow Team Base. Batman is the first superhero to be infected. Green Arrow said in disbelief. If he dies, who will lead others to solve the crisis next? Do we need to let Barry enter the Speed Force again? This time, the person who answered the question was not Black Canary, but Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan and Green Arrow are good friends. After the gathering of the Big Seven, Hal came to visit the base of Team Arrow. Hal Jordan's eyes were solemn. Flash's ability to load saves can't be used casually. Think about how much impact he had on us when he reset the world several times before. Black Canary couldn't help but sigh. The brain of the Justice League has fallen. The story of despair has been full of despair from the beginning. Accompanied by the discussion of a group of superheroes. The picture on the screen continued to play. The sight came to the North Atlantic. At this time, in the North Atlantic, a fishing boat that ran aground for unknown reasons was floating quietly on the sea. Aquaman Arthur, holding a trident, boarded the fishing boat to check the situation. He walked to the door of the cabin and pulled it open with a little force. The next second, an indescribable and extremely foul smell came to his face. The light outside the ship was projected into the dark cargo holds through the cabin door. Indistinctly, hundreds of black shadows rose and fell, and a low roar sounded in the cabin. And unknown the chewing and swallowing sounds of creatures. Soon, Aquaman adapted to the dim light. When he saw everything in front of him, he instantly showed a look of horror. There were hundreds of hideous zombies. At this moment, they were rushing towards him like a tide. When the zombies stretched out their bloody claws and tried to tear Aquaman apart, Aquaman came to his senses. He quickly jumped off the boat and tried to escape from the sea. The zombies behind him followed him. They kept jumping into the sea like dumplings. As soon as Aquaman fell into the water, he was surrounded by zombies. The next second, the group of zombies completely submerged Aquaman. The sight returns to Metropolis. At this time, Metropolis is full of flames and explosions. The raging fire spreads between the buildings. Human figures flicker in the fire, and there are violent zombies eating people everywhere. The river reflects the city engulfed by flames, and despair spreads throughout Metropolis. Damian and Joe, who have changed into combat uniforms, stand on the balcony. Joe comforted, Damian, your father will be fine. Damian was stunned and said nothing, then turned his eyes and said firmly, I'm not worried about Joe, we have to do what we need to do first. In the room, Lois and Superman were also worried. Lois said, the disaster has spread throughout the city, and zombie crises are breaking out everywhere. Clark, we should go to the Daily Planet. The walls there are stronger and there are radio equipment, which makes it easier for us to contact the outside world. Clark agreed to the plan. He took Joe, Damian and Louise to the Daily Planet building. The scene changed to Gotham City. In a dilapidated alley, Harley Quinn came to the Joker's residence under the persuasion of poison ivy. Harley Quinn opened the door and saw the Joker sitting in front of a row of monitors with his back to her. "I have something to tell you," Harley Quinn said with courage. "I'm breaking up with you, clown. I know you don't like what I do, so this is the problem between us," Harley Quinn said to herself. She didn't notice that the corner of the Joker's mouth was no longer smiling but twitching. "This is my decision. From today on, there is no relationship between us." The camera switches from the back of the clown to the front of the clown's face. However, the clown at this time no longer looks like a human. His face is covered with scratches, and madness and bloodthirstiness spread in his pupils. "Hey, did you hear that?" Harley asked the Joker again. But the only response she got was a low and slight growl. "In the real world, Gotham City," Poison Ivy reminded Harley, "Look, you're on TV again." At this time, Harley Quinn was getting a manicure, and she looked up and showed an unhappy look. "How could this scene happen? I broke up with the Joker a long time ago." "Look at the bright side, you're famous, Harley," Poison Ivy said with a wry smile. "And it seems that the great Mr. Joker has also been infected and turned into a zombie. Guess, will you kill your ex-boyfriend?" Harley immediately showed an interested expression. After hearing that the members of the Justice League had left Gotham, the wandering Joker returned to his residence in a low-key manner. The picture on the screen made him look unhappy. "I turned into a zombie. What a boring video. To read exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network." The picture on the screen continued to play. The perspective came to the outskirts of the metropolis. At this time, 2 men and 1 woman were camping in the suburbs. The identities of the 3 were not simple. They were Black Canary Laurel, Green Arrow Oliver Queen and Green Lantern Hal Jordan. The 3 sat in front of the campfire, roasting cotton and chatting. The content of the 3 people's chat was the joint efforts to defeat Darkseid's invasion not long ago. When the chat got excited, Green Arrow suggested, "Hal, why don't you use the lantern ring to turn into a guitar? We can sing some campfire songs." "Are you sure the Canary's singing won't blow our heads off?" Hal asked seriously. The Green Arrow immediately stood up from the ground with a serious face. "What are you going to do?" Hal looked confused, but Green Arrow said solemnly, "Hal Jordan, you have the ability to destroy the atmosphere in any environment. Now, you are welcome to join the Spoilers Army." Green Arrow saluted formally. In the real world, the DC main universe, the audience was amused by Green Arrow's funny behavior. It turns out that the Green Arrow of Star City is so humorous. "He's so funny, he's a hero. Compared to the serious Batman and Superman, I prefer this middle school hero." At this time, the Green Arrow team base was also filled with laughter. Hal stared at the Green Arrow with a dark face. "See, old Green, your disgusting sense of humor makes us a joke." "Is there? I think the metaphor is very appropriate," said Green Arrow innocently. "Laurel, what do you think?" Black Canary shrugged, "No comment. But aren't we 3 a little too comfortable? The world is suffering from a zombie apocalypse, and we're camping and taking vacations." Hal Jordan folded his arms. "If only it were that simple. There must be more to it than that. I guess a zombie dog or zombie wildcat will suddenly appear in the jungle." Then cut open Mr. Oliver, who boasted of his rich sense of humor. Accompanied by the discussion of the audience, the picture on the screen continued to play. Perhaps he was embarrassed by the serious ridicule of the Green Arrow. Hal went into his tent alone. He was going to sleep, have a good sleep, and have a good rest. However, when Hal really lay in the tent, he suddenly couldn't sleep again. He subconsciously took out his mobile phone, thinking that he would go to sleep when he was tired. However, the moment the mobile phone screen lit up, things began to deteriorate rapidly in an uncontrollable direction. The next second, Hal's tent exploded violently. An extremely powerful green energy exploded. At this time, the Green Arrow and the Black Canary were still chatting, and they were not prepared for this sudden explosion at all. As a result, the 2 were affected by the explosion and flew out. "Hal, what happened to you?" The Green Arrow came back to his senses and screamed. But, in the embers of the explosion with green flames, in the embers, there was a black shadow slowly floating. And the roar that did not belong to a human was emitted by the shadow. All of this pointed out one thing. Hal was infected. He turned into a zombie Green Lantern. Oh my god, what is that? Black Canary was shocked. Green Arrow on the side shouted uncertainly, Hal. The next second, Hal roared and rushed towards Green Arrow. The green light energy erupted at this moment, condensing and changing like waves. Finally, a huge bloody mouth composed of green light energy was formed. Green Arrow was almost scared to death. He looked at the bloody mouth rushing towards him with a shocked face. Just when he was about to become the zombie Green Lantern's dinner. Black Canary on the side opened his mouth. The next second, a visible sound wave ripple rushed towards the zombie Hal. In the real world, the Star City of the DC main universe. Hal Jordan stared at the screen with a dull expression. Actually, I turned into a zombie. Why isn't it Green Arrow? He is the weakest one. This is not fair. Green Arrow on the side had 3 black lines on his forehead. Black Canary watched the screen with interest. Hal, it seems that your green light energy can no longer protect you after you become a zombie. You can't resist my sonic power. Hal grinned. Laurel, your sonic power is more powerful than sonic weapons, of course I can't withstand it. But luckily I have you. If only Green Arrow, a weakling, was by my side. The only person who will die is him. Green Arrow. At the same time, the civilians who were watching the light screen showed expressions of shock. Oh my god, Green Lantern is infected. Fortunately, Black Canary is here, otherwise it would be even worse. Alas, it seems that 3 members of the Justice League have been infected. The situation is not good. The screen continued to play. Under the sonic attack of Black Canary, the zombie Green Lantern's life force was quickly cut off. His body, covered with scratches, fell to the ground completely motionless. What happened? Green Arrow looked at Green Lantern's body with an unpleasant expression. What on earth happened to Hal? At this moment, the light ring on the Green Lantern's body suddenly flashed. The Green Lantern of Area 2814 has been confirmed dead, and the search for a successor has begun. In the surprised eyes of the 3 people in Area 14, the ring was taken off the body of the Green Lantern and then floated in front of Black Canary. Laurel Lance from Earth, you have the power to overcome fear. Welcome to join the Green Lantern Corps. The Green Lantern ring was automatically put on Black Canary's finger. A green halo spread from her body. Black Canary changed her clothes and her uniform changed to black and green. So far, Black Canary officially became the new Green Lantern. Star City in the real world. Green Lantern looked at the picture on the screen and fell silent again. Green Arrow on the side said jokingly, your lamp ring is really smart. If the previous owner fails, you can find the next one right away. It's quite efficient. Green Lantern's face darkened and he said nothing. The screen continued. Black Canary looked at the ring on her hand and the brand new equipment. With a grim expression, he said, I don't want this ring. It's Hal's. Before Black Canary could finish, a tall figure appeared in front of them. It was Clark Superman. He heard what happened here and rushed over. Seeing Hal Jordan's body, Superman's face was solemn. But he quickly looked at Black Canary and said, wear it, the situation is urgent, we need the power of Green Lantern now. In a blink of an eye, Green Arrow and Black Canary were taken back to the top floor of the Daily Planet. When they returned, Damian told everyone a good news. I got in touch with him. Damian said, pointing at the Bat walkie-talkie. I contacted Batman. At this time, Green Arrow was still in a state of confusion. Batman, oh my god, what the hell happened? Hal suddenly turned into a living dead and wanted to kill us. A hoarse voice came from the Bat walkie-talkie. Them, not a zombie. Them, not starving, they are just spreading death. All of these, it's about the anti-life equation. Equations. Green Arrow complains, I've hated math since I was a kid, and now it's killing us all. Batman interrupts, listen, there's no time, I'm already infected. But I got some clues from my blood sample. The scene cuts back to the Batcave. Batman is standing in front of the monitor with a serious face. He is wearing Mr. Freeze's freezing suit. The scratch on his cheek is still bleeding. He stands there stiffly. I put on a Mr. Freeze suit and it lowered my metabolism. The virus infection rate has slowed down, but I will eventually be infected. The screen turned to Alfu, who was playing with the shotgun with a sad face. What to do next is self-evident. On the rooftop of the Daily Planet, Superman looked sad when he heard the news. Bruce. There's no time for sentimentality, Clark, Batman said calmly. This is a product of the fusion of organic biology and technology. It can be transmitted through blood or digital images. In this situation, the most effective way to save people is to kill all virus carriers. And completely destroy the internet. Green Arrow said seriously, it turns out that the internet is not only harming teenagers, but the harm I imagined is not what it is now. Batman, you are not really going to die. You should lead us through this crisis. Batman's face was gloomy. I'm sorry, my friends, I'm afraid I can't do it this time. Damian, my child. Damian was already crying. Batman, father. Batman's voice became weaker and weaker. I asked Alpha to bring the things to you. That's what I've always want to give you, thing. But I'm sorry, Dammy. I'm afraid I can't. Watching you put on. Batman's voice was intermittent until the connection was completely cut off. At this time, in the Batcave, Batman covered his head in pain. Mr. Freeze's mask was completely shattered by his crazy scratching. When the mask was completely shattered, Batman was completely infected and turned into a zombie Batman. To read the exciting novel, go to Faloo Novel Network. He opened his scarlet bloody mouth and rushed towards Alfred. Things shouldn't have ended this way. Alfred silently loaded the shotgun. His palms trembled slightly, and his old face was full of grief. But in the end, he raised the muzzle of the shotgun and pointed it at the zombie Batman. I'm sorry, my son. Bang! Gunshots rang out, and the zombie Batman fell completely in a pool of blood. In the real world, there was a dead silence in the Batcave of the DC main universe. The people of the Bat family looked at the picture on the light screen. All kinds of complicated emotions surged in their hearts. Damian silently wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. Since the appearance of this light screen, he has become sentimental. Nightwing Dick was thoughtful. Batman might not be as cold and ruthless as imagined. He just stayed in the dark for too long and forgot how to express himself. As for Alfred, he left the Batcave silently at this time. The moment he closed the door, he silently wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. I thought that treating Batman as his own son would be something that would happen before death. Unexpectedly, it was shown on the light screen in advance. Batman looked at the screen with a complicated expression. After watching Alfred kill him, he sadly arranged his body. Batman had mixed feelings. He had long regarded the butler Alfred as his relative, even his adoptive father. But once these emotions were brought out in the open, it would always be embarrassing. The screen continued. Before leaving Wayne Manor, Alfred arranged the bodies of Batman, Dick, and Tim. Looking at the bodies of his 3 children, Alfred's back was full of loneliness. But he had to cheer up, because he had to give his last child the legacy of Batman. Damian, the last bloodline of the Bat family. Boarding the Batplane, Alfred went to the building of the Daily Planet. On the way to Metropolis, Alfred saw the tragic situation in Gotham City. Countless zombies were running wildly on the streets. They stretched out their blood-red finger bones and roared wildly, greedily looking at the planes flying in the sky. Alfred pressed the missile launch button expressionlessly. The next second, huge explosions echoed continuously in the streets and alleys of Gotham City. Countless zombies were blown to pieces. The flames engulfed streets one after another. It was like Alfred's rage being released. The camera passed the Batfighter and landed in an alley that had been blown up. A slender figure was running wildly in the flames. It was Harley Quinn, who stepped over corpses like a crazy woman. Turning around, she picked up the shotgun from a dying man. Behind her, another crazy figure was still chasing. The flames reflected half of its profile. It was the zombie clown. Stand back, you stand back. Harley shouted at the zombie clown. However, the zombie clown had completely lost his mind and rushed towards Harley Quinn regardless of anything. Finally, Harley's anger overcame her fear. I'm not running away. Poison Ivy is right, I have to face reality. Mr. Joker, go to hell. Harley Quinn pulled the trigger. The bullet shot out of the barrel and exploded in the clown's abdomen. The zombie clown fell in a pool of blood. Harley Quinn covered her mouth with excitement. Oh my God. This is the best thing I have ever done. I shot my ex-boyfriend to death. After so many years of giggling, I finally turned into a piece of meat that is beneficial to my body and mind. I'm so strong. In the real world, Gotham City. Harley watched herself kill the Joker. She was so excited that she almost fainted. Poison Ivy, did you see that? I killed the Joker. I shot this scumbag to death with one shot, haha. Poison Ivy said helplessly. Calm down, Harley, it was you on the screen who did it, not you. The Joker is alive and well now. Harley Quinn frowned instantly. In that case, let's try to kill the clown in real life. Smaller than zombies, killing the real clowns is even more fun. The sight returned to the light screen. Just when Harley Quinn killed the Joker and was about to go back to find Poison Ivy, a group of hot figures blocked her way. More precisely, a group of hot but hideous monsters fell from the sky and surrounded Harley Quinn. Zombies. Birds of prey. Harley Quinn called out the names of the group. The ones who appeared in front of Harley were Zombie Catwoman, Zombie Batwoman, Zombie Barbara. Harry was not flustered. Instead, he whistled leisurely. It's time to shoot birds. Harley cheered and rushed over with a shotgun. The view changed again. This time it was the bottom of Atlantis. Queen Mela was teaching Sea Storm the trick of controlling the ocean current. But the trick was extremely difficult for Sea Storm. Just when Mela was complaining that Sea Storm should change its nickname, the originally clear and bright seabed suddenly became dark. Mela looked up in confusion. What happened? Did the sun set so soon? However, the black mass soon dispersed. Then, the entire surface of the sea was covered with a layer of blood red. The blood red was not dye. It was the blood flowing from the remains of corpses, thousands of body remains. At some point, an endless layer of corpses floated on the surface of the sea. Mila saw the Atlantis armor among the corpses. These corpses were the killed Atlantis soldiers. No, what's going on? Mira's pupils trembled with shock. She had never seen such a horrifying scene. Until the next second, she saw an even more horrifying scene again. Among the group of corpses, a figure wearing golden scales was surging. It swam and tore the surrounding flesh. The soldiers of Atlantis were torn apart easily in its hands like white paper. That man was the Lord of the Seven Seas, Aquaman Arthur. But at this time, Aquaman had been completely infected and turned into a zombie Aquaman who only knew how to plunder lives. Soon, blood floated into the city of Atlantis. After the people in the city inhaled the blood, they became visibly hideous. Then they turned into zombies, pounced on the people around them, and feasted on them. Sea Storm and Mira were still staring at the zombie Aquaman in a daze. Little did they know, the blood was already pouring in. Hai Bao Bao inhaled the blood pouring out of the corpse. The next second, he wailed in pain. The zombie virus penetrated into his brain, corroding and corrupting his will at the fastest speed. Hai Bao Bao covered his head and kept howling loudly. He even tore his own skin, just trying to dissipate the pain a little. But in the blink of an eye, the movement stopped. When Mira saw Hai Bao Bao's cheek again, what appeared in front of her was a hideous and terrifying face. Hai Bao Bao, a corpse. Then he and other zombies rushed towards Mira. The blood was dyeing the entire Atlantis red. Screams and roars were heard from every corner. Mira used a water magic to repel the zombies that were rushing in. Then she swam towards the sea with a panicked look on her face. The real world, the main universe of DC. Even the ocean cannot avoid being infected. A terrible virus is spreading in the ocean. Green Lantern, Batman and Aquaman have all turned into zombies. I wonder which hero will be next. The terrible zombie apocalypse. People under the light screen were talking about it. At the same time, in Atlantis, the panic of the Atlanteans was obviously greater than that of the people on land. After all, the zombie virus on land is not airborne. But this virus can be spread through seawater. Aquaman Arthur looked at the light screen with a serious face. This crisis came too suddenly and there was no possibility of prevention. I was actually infected by zombies just because I rescued a fishing boat. Mila sighed. This virus is something that even Darkseid can't control. At present, it seems that the ocean is about to fall completely. The spread of the zombie virus in seawater is much easier than on land. As the discussion continued, the images on the screen continued to play. Although the Earth was on the verge of collapse, but Superman still did not give up the chance to save it. He first cleaned up the zombies in the Daily Planet building. Then he took off and flew to the Kent farm on the outskirts of Metropolis. He had to bring his adoptive parents back. During the flight, he witnessed Metropolis heading towards destruction. He could only save as many survivors as possible in the best way he could. One person's power is limited, and he couldn't save everyone. Soon, the entire America was full of zombies. Superman flew back to Kent Farm and saw his mother Martha. After confirming that she was safe, Superman quietly breathed a sigh of relief. "Where's your father?" Superman asked. But Martha looked at the farm not far away with a sad face. Superman walked into the farm with a solemn face and opened the cellar inside. An old man with a hideous face rushed out. That was Superman's adoptive father, Jonathan Kent. Looking at this adoptive father who taught him since he was a child, now he has become a bloodthirsty zombie. Superman sent him into the cellar again with a sad face. Superman picked up Martha with a sad face, and then flew towards the direction of the Daily Planet building. Similar tragedies are constantly being staged all over the world at this moment. Heroes from all over the world are also trying their best to fight this doomsday crisis. At this time, in the Sky Eye base in Washington, D.C., a female zombie was tied up and fixed on the experimental table. Next to the experimental table stood Captain Atom and Amanda Waller, one of the highest commanders of the Sky Eye. The two stared at the zombie in front of them with frowns. Waller asked, "Is there any news?" Captain Atom replied, "Not yet. The Atom is still inside this monster, but we've lost his signal. To read the exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network." Waller frowned, "Captain, we don't have time. We must speed up the process of developing a vaccine." Captain Atom said meticulously, "We sent Atom into the body of the infected giant woman and tried to analyze the virus structure through microscopic means. But the Atom lost his signal and we're not sure if he's still on the mission." "Then activate the Epidemic Prevention Protocol C," Waller said without hesitation. "It's your turn, Captain Atom. We need you to completely eliminate the infection. At least clear out an area for us to defend and rescue survivors." The Atom is a character similar to Ant-Man who can shrink himself to a microscopic size. As for Captain Atom, he is also known as Quantum Superman or a humanoid nuclear bomb. He is a superhero who can burst out nuclear-level energy. Captain Atom received the order and immediately flew over the Washington Special District. He burst out with quantum-level energy all over his body. He tilted towards the zombies on the street. The huge nuclear energy beam swept across the block like a high-pressure water gun. Wherever it passed, all zombies, including zombie heroes and zombie villains, turned into powder. With the blessing of Captain Atom's powerful beam, no zombie could resist his attack. Waller's voice came from Captain Atom's headset. "Good job, Captain. The first and second blocks have been cleared. Now we are clearing the third block." Waller's voice stopped abruptly because she heard Captain Atom groaning slightly. She immediately asked, "Captain, what's wrong with you?" "Something is wrong." Captain Atom covered his chest with a look of surprise on his face. "Something has entered my body." Original. The Atom. "No, God, this is impossible." The pain in the chest became more and more intense. So much so that Captain Atom's expression became more and more hideous. In the microscopic world at this time, on a small piece of cell structure in Captain Atom's heart, a black figure was constantly tearing Captain Atom's heart cells. While tearing, a large amount of black blood was injected into the cells. Large pieces of blood cells were infected and turned dark brown. The camera zoomed in, and the black shadow was the Atom reduced to a microscopic level. But at this time, the Atom had a hideous face and his mouth was full of blood. He seemed to have been infected and turned into a zombie. Under the crazy tearing of the zombie Atom, Captain Atom groaned in pain. His heart beat wildly and violently. The whole body seemed to enter the countdown of nuclear fission, and terrifying energy was rapidly gathering around him. In the real world, the DC main universe, Waller of the Sky Eye Society looked at Captain Atom who was about to explode on the light screen. He fell into deep thought. Captain Atom is a very useful double-edged sword. It is easy to solve the crisis with it, but once it gets out of control, the result will be fatal. And now, because of the appearance of the zombie Atom, Captain Atom is about to explode. It's time to advance the recruitment plan for Task Force X. Waller said to himself. Rather than letting Captain Atom do everything himself, it is much cheaper to send criminals to carry out the mission. Speaking of this, Waller took a few documents in his hand. King Shark, Harley Quinn crossed out Deadshot, Polka Dot Man, Weasel, Peacemaker. As long as the list is qualified, Waller will immediately recruit the villains. The screen continues to play. The perspective comes to the top floor of the Daily Planet. As Lois connects to the radio wave communication, she contacts more survivors. The news spreads to the whole world. Ordinary people hiding in the attic shivering. Hawkman and Hawkgirl flying in the sky. Teen Titans hiding in remote towns. Even Luther standing on the top floor of LexCorp in a daze. They all heard Lois's voice. The fire of hope was ignited again for the people in despair. The picture comes to Paradise Island. After getting rid of the pursuit of the zombie Aquaman, Mela came to Paradise Island for refuge. Queen Hippolyte took her in. While the two were talking, Wonder Woman Diana walked up to them and heard Lois's remarks on rescuing survivors and saving humanity on the radio. Wonder Woman immediately decided to leave and go to Metropolis to support Superman. However, Superman and the Green Lantern version of Black Canary had already arrived at Keystone City. What they are going to do next will cause the entire Earth to fall into complete destruction. In the air above Keystone City, Superman and Green Lantern Canary were flying and searching for survivors. Superman turned on his X-ray vision and scanned the entire city. Finally, he saw the figures of Barry Allen and Wally in a warehouse. At the beginning of the zombie virus outbreak, the two came to Keystone City to hide. Superman and Black Canary then opened the door where they were hiding. "Barry, Wally, I'm here to take you out of here," Superman said. Surprisingly, the two rejected him without hesitation. "We can't leave Clark," the Flash said solemnly. "It was Batman who warned us not to go out when the disaster happened. Although this is not a heroic act, if any of us were infected, the world is completely over. A zombie with super speed can infect most of the human beings on Earth within a second. Such a terrifying existence is indeed only suitable to stay at home." In the real world, the DC main universe, the Central City Star City Laboratory. Barry and Wally in reality couldn't help but look at each other. "I knew that the existence of the biohazard could not be avoided by us," Barry complained. Caitlin frowned slightly. "Batman was right to let you hide at the first time. If you two reckless guys get infected, the consequences will be disastrous." Wally crossed his arms. "We are speedsters. Can speedsters be infected by zombies?" Cisco spread his hands. "This is not an ordinary virus, but a super-organic technology virus blessed by the anti-life equation. Even Aquaman can be infected. Do you think your physical strength is stronger than Aquaman's?" Wally grinned and didn't continue talking. Barry looked very serious. "Batman notified us immediately. This is indeed the best solution. But now, it seems that Superman is taking us away from. I'm really worried." Cisco curled his lips and said, "Keep reading, Barry. I'm curious about what it would be like if you became a zombie." Quote, "Don't worry, I can transfer you safely," Superman assured. "You will definitely not be infected." Since Superman has made a guarantee, Flash and Kid Flash are no longer stubborn. They decided to follow Clark to a safe place. But they didn't know how serious the consequences of this approach would be in the near future. At this time, on the top of the Daily Planet building. During this period of time, many survivors have gathered on the roof. Lois is still sending signals to all parts of the world. At this moment, Superman Joe suddenly looked in a direction covered by fire. "Did you hear it? What's that sound? Something is approaching us." The ground shook, and all the superheroes looked towards a collapsed building with flames. Green Arrow frowned. "Based on my experience, this is a sign of the approaching end of the world. I have been doing this for a long time, I have experience." Almost at the moment when Green Arrow finished speaking, a huge female body stumbled out from behind a tall building. Her figure was like Godzilla, and she was covered in blood. Especially her eyes, which revealed a lifeless gray-white color. It was a zombie-like giant woman. The giant woman was in the laboratory of the Sky Eye Society before, and now she appeared here. It can be expected that the Sky Eye Society has fallen. Just as the giant woman was waving her claws and walking between the tall buildings. The next second, the Bat Fighter rushed over. BFBB, several bombs flew out and launched a fierce bombing on the giant woman. The moment they saw the Bat Fighter, Damian and others on the roof were shocked. "What? Batman's fighter plane. Who is driving now? However, before the discussion could come to a conclusion, the Bat fighter was grabbed by the giant woman. At this critical moment, several figures flew through the air. It was Superman and the Flash. Superman raised his fists and smashed at the giant woman. Green Lantern Canary manifested a huge palm and grabbed the severely broken Bat fighter in his palm. With the blessing of Superman's superpower, the zombie giant woman was smashed to the ground. Superman, get out of the way. Wonder Woman suddenly appeared, raising her sword to chop off the giant woman's head. But she was stopped by Clark. Batman said these people were just infected, and maybe they can be saved, Superman explained. Are you serious? Diana shouted, I can't wait for this giant zombie to come back to life. Before Diana could finish her words, the giant woman's head, which was as huge as the Statue of Liberty, exploded instantly. The sight passed through the big hole in the giant woman's head. On the other side of the hole, there stood a familiar mechanical body. It was Cyborg. Vic, what did you do? Superman asked. Cyborg's voice was low. She is not alive, all the infected are not alive. Diane, Clark, we need to talk. I have a lot to tell you. Back on the top floor of the Daily Planet building, Green Arrow and the others were discussing the zombie crisis. But Cyborg suddenly appeared and denied their call. These are not zombies, Cyborg said solemnly. They are more like a corruption, an extension of the anti-life equation. A decadent who desires to spread death and nothing else. They will keep looking for life to end. We have to get out of here as soon as possible. The more people there are here, the more people who will be defeated will gather here. Green Arrow suddenly exclaimed, pointing to the sky not far away. Everyone looked up and saw a figure falling down. Diana jumped in the air to catch it. But she saw that the person in her arms was Hawkgirl. Kendra, what happened to you? Diana asked immediately. But Kendra was dying. I heard the broadcast and came to support. But on the way, I saw something horrible. What is it? Superman asked immediately. Yes, it's Captain Atom, Kendra said. He was transformed too, and to read exciting novels, go to Philo Novel Network. It's about to self-destruct. The horror of this sentence is no less than Darkseid's invasion of the Earth again. It is even 100 times more serious than the latter. Superman and Wonder Woman rushed out to Washington without hesitation. They tried to stop Captain Atom from self-destructing. But even though they tried their best to take Captain Atom to high altitude, but the superatomic nuclear explosion could not be stopped. A ray of white light burst out from the body of the zombie Captain Atom. The huge energy light ball expanded and spread rapidly like a tsunami. Wherever it passed, whether it was high-rise buildings or mountains and rivers, they were all razed to the ground. The shock wave continued to spread. Whether it was humans or all the zombies were annihilated in this super-nuclear explosion. Washington, Baltimore and Metropolis, 3 megacities with a population of tens of millions, disappeared in an instant. Looking at the black land around them turned into scorched earth. Both Superman and Diana fell into a long silence. The scene changed and came to the top floor of the Daily Planet building. At the moment of the super-nuclear explosion, Black Canary used the power of the Green Lantern ring to protect the entire building. This building also became the only 2 survivors in the entire area. The reason why it is called the only 2 is that in this nuclear explosion, outside the Daily Planet building, another person also survived. Hey, super bastard. What the hell happened here? Lex Luther yelled at Superman in the ruins not far from the Daily Planet. If it weren't for the protection of the armor's energy shield, he would have died in the explosion. Superman was in a very bad mood at this time. He was floating in front of Luther with red eyes. It seemed that he would shoot a laser to pierce him in the next second. Seeing Superman about to go berserk, Luther immediately gave in. Truce, Superman. In this situation, there is no point in you continuing to fight with me. I don't want to add fuel to the fire. The red light in Superman's eyes slowly faded away. Now, we are no longer enemies, Luther. Superman said in a low voice, we now have only one common name. Survivors. In the real world, the DC main universe. Lex Luther looked at the picture on the screen. He couldn't help but sighed. The zombie world, plus the atom's nuclear explosion, is really a headache. But Mr. Luther actually survived the nuclear explosion. You are worthy of it. Beside Luther, a figure wearing a cold weather jacket on a hot day teased. You are one of the mortals who can stand shoulder to shoulder with gods, except Batman. Luther frowned slightly. Wearing such thick clothes in such hot weather, aren't you afraid of heatstroke, Leonard? The man named Leonard took out a high-tech gun. He said proudly, if I don't wear it like this, how can I show my identity as Captain Cold? Just like you, Luther, why don't you wear a wig? Because the big bald head is a symbol of your identity. Leonard Snart, codenamed Captain Cold, is the leader of the Midtown Rogue Gang. But now, he has been invited to Metropolis by Lex Luther. He is currently serving as the chief security guard of LexCorp. Luther had a blank expression on his face. If you knew in advance that Captain Atom was going to explode, what precautions would you take? The preventive measure is to freeze him into an ice cube in advance, Captain Cold said. Luther frowned slightly. Leonard, we can't leave our lives to the so-called superheroes or the eye of heaven to save us. They might make things worse. What Luther means is, I hope to save the world with my own strength. Luther's eyes flickered. At least when the crisis on the light screen appears, I can resist. Instead of just becoming an ant. Captain Hahn nodded. It's a good idea, but the wages will still be paid. The source of the zombie crisis comes from Apocalypse. A few days ago, Darkseid captured Cyborg and rewrote the other half of the anti-life equation in him. This directly led to the birth of a zombie virus that spreads through the internet and blood. Batman, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and Captain Atom were all infected. Humanity is trapped in a desperate crisis shrouded by the zombie crisis. But, is everything really irreversible? The fight of the Justice League continues, but in another corner of the world. The heroes in the dark are also fighting. But can they finally save the world? The scene is in outer space. At this time, outside Apocalypse. Apocalypse, destroyed by the zombie Darkseid, has turned into countless meteorites fragments with flames. Outside the fragments, two figures are floating in the universe. They are Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, who were asked by Superman to go to Apocalypse to find Cyborg. The two are alien superheroes similar to Kryptonians. At this time, they are floating in front of the embers of Apocalypse, with solemn faces. The gods are dead, and the entire planet no longer exists. Mr. Miracle said in a low voice, Darkseid, as the omniscient one, did the stupidest thing in the universe. Mr. Miracle pinched his brows. Let's go back, there is still a lot of mess to clean up on Earth. With the sonic boom channel reopened, the two returned to Earth. At the same time, in the Star Laboratory in Detroit, Mr. Excellence, who is known as the third wisest man on Earth, is now studying the captured zombies. I have 14 doctorates, but I have made no progress in research, Mr. Excellence sighed. Everything is back to square one. At this moment, Mr. Excellence's communication prompt rang. It was Mr. Miracle and Big Barda who had returned. Mr. Excellence immediately left the institute and flew towards Miracle. After the three superheroes reunited, they exchanged information. When Mr. Excellence learned that Apocalypse had been completely destroyed, he decided to use the second salvation plan. The three went to Code Industries. There they summoned the Future Man, Booster Gold, and his partner Teddy. Then, they drove a high-tech spaceship towards England. When passing through a city of the living dead, Booster Gold couldn't help but ask. Now is the real end of the world, right? Why don't we go find the Justice League? Mr. Excellence said calmly, the Justice League is a powder keg that can explode at any time. If the anti-life equation infected Diana, would you really want it to be around you? Golden Bomber thought for a moment, no, that's too scary. Mr. Excellence continued, Apocalypse, the source of the virus, has been completely destroyed. We cannot solve this crisis from the source. Then only options 2 and 3 are left. The second option is magic. We have to find the most powerful magician. Jin Shanfeng was surprised. Magic is notoriously unreliable. What if magic doesn't work? That leaves only option 3, Mr. Zuiyu said, but the situation will get worse. We might even put all parallel universes in danger. Oh no, this is too scary, said Pioneer Jin. The scene came to the streets of Liverpool, England. At this time, a large group of zombies were running forward with their fangs and claws bared. In front of them was a man in a windbreaker with a depressed look on his face. The zombies roared and chased the man in the windbreaker madly. The man in the windbreaker continued to run wildly in panic while cursing. When the camera zoomed in, the appearance of the man in the windbreaker was clearly displayed on the screen. It was John Constantine, the detective of hell and a professional scammer. In the real world, in the headquarters of the Dark Justice League, Raven was the first to shout, "Look, it's Uncle Constantine." Constantine actually appeared on the light screen, and he was so embarrassed, Zatanna looked at the joke. Mrs. Xanadu smiled. It seems that John is the most powerful magician that the Savior team is looking for. Constantine, the most powerful. Itlagan did not hide his contempt. A guy who makes a living by cheating, can he be the most powerful magician? I think the strongest wizard should be Zatanna or Dr. Fate. I also think Constantine doesn't deserve this title, the swamp monster said hoarsely, he's just a liar. Listening to everyone's discussion, Constantine was too lazy to explain. He just relit a cigarette and smoked it silently. In the other side of the Batcave, Batman looked at Constantine, who appeared on the light screen, showing a thoughtful expression. Although this guy is not very reliable, he never fails at critical moments. It seems that in this event, the heroes of the magic side will also appear one after another. The picture on the screen continued. More and more zombies rushed towards Constantine. Even closer. Constantine was sweating profusely and ran desperately. Finally, before the zombies touched him, Constantine hid in a black taxi. Chase, that was a close call. I almost became afternoon tea for those guys outside. Constantine's voice suddenly stopped. He saw that the taxi driver Chase, one of Constantine's few friends, had also turned into a zombie and rushed towards him from the driver's seat. Constantine reacted quickly. He chanted a spell and a ball of fire ignited in his pupils. The next second, the zombie Chase spontaneously combusted and turned into a pile of ashes in a very short time. Constantine started the car and tried to escape from this zombie neighborhood. However, there were too many zombies around. The moment Constantine stepped on the accelerator, the car crashed directly into a nearby electric pole. The car was scrapped and the sirens sounded. More zombies rushed towards him like a tide. Just when Constantine was about to be torn to pieces by the zombie army, the next second, a high-tech spaceship rushed over. Countless dense laser bombs swept across the large swaths of zombies around. The zombies were instantly reduced to ashes by the burning flames. The spaceship landed, and Mr. Miracle, Golden Pioneer and others appeared in front of Constantine. Constantine calmed himself down and lit a cigarette on the burning corpse nearby. "Hello, how are you doing lately? As you can see, I've been having a rough time lately." Mr. Miracle immediately replied, "My entire home planet has been destroyed." "Well, then I can't compare with you." Constantine sat in the back of the taxi. While smoking, he continued to ask, "How did you find me?" "You have a Justice League membership card in your wallet, and it has a tracker on it," Mr. Excellence said. Tracker. Not only Constantine in the light screen was stunned. Even Constantine in reality was stunned. In the real world, Constantine took out his wallet from his pocket and took out the membership card. "Batman, he even plotted against me." Constantine burned the membership card and raised his middle finger in the direction of Gotham City. Superheroes in other areas saw the screen and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Batman really is on guard against everyone. In Star City, Hal Jordan looked at the Green Arrow who was rummaging through his pockets. He kindly reminded, "Brother Oliver, don't look for it. It's not there." "How could I not have a tracker on me?" Green Arrow said seriously. "Maybe Batman put the blindfold on me. I need to look carefully." Hal showed a speechless expression. "Batman will be on guard against everyone except you, Oliver. He will not be wary at all. Do you know why? Why? Because you are a weakling." Green Arrow got angry immediately. "If you have the guts, throw away your lantern ring and fight me." "You Hal, I'll give you a good beating." The light curtain continued. After a brief exchange, Mr. Zuiyu told him the purpose of his visit. "John, we can't find a technological solution to this crisis." Constantine asked back, "Do you think I can save the world by snapping my fingers?" "You might try it," said Mr. Excellence. Constantine snorted, "No, I've tried it. The crisis at hand is beyond the scope of magic. I'm planning to hide and get drunk irresponsibly. Do you want to join me?" Mr. Excellence looked embarrassed. "We still have to save the world." "If you change your mind." No, Constantine interrupted, I'm not a hero. I'm just a liar. Constantine raised his hands. A green magic portal rose up in the sound of a long spell. The hero. After saying this, Constantine walked into the portal without looking back and disappeared on the spot. Constantine refused to help the rescue team. Mr. Excellence planned to carry out the last rescue plan. He looked at the Golden Pioneer sitting at the back of the spaceship. Golden Vanguard, I swear you are the last hope to save this world. Golden Vanguard was slightly stunned. What do you mean? I don't understand. Mr. Excellence continued, you are a future person who traveled from Gotham in 2445. I know you have a time machine. You have to tell us where the time machine is. The last rescue plan is to travel back in time and restart the timeline. Jin Shanfang was slightly stunned, but finally agreed to Mr. Zuiyu. Malibu, the mountaintop residence of the Fire Girl and the Ice Girl. When the technological spacecraft arrived above the residence, the atmosphere below was filled with a gloomy atmosphere. Bloodstains and broken limbs were everywhere, and the ground was in a mess. It doesn't look good. We have been through a tough battle, but we don't know if they are still alive. As soon as Dabata finished speaking, a woman with green light all over her body flew into the sky and launched a fierce attack on the spacecraft. It was a female superhero who had been infected and turned into a zombie. The spaceship was instantly surrounded by green flames, and the entire spaceship was severely damaged. Then it crashed into the residence on the top of the mountain. Quick, evacuate inside. Big Barda screamed and kicked the wall in front of him. Everyone climbed out of the spaceship and followed Big Barda and Mr. Miracle to escape. However, the crash of the spaceship awakened the zombies in the mansion. Countless zombies swarmed in and pounced on Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. You go first. Big Barda shouted, Mr. Miracle and I will stop them. Both of them are alien superpowers, and their strength is the strongest among the crowd. At the urging of the two, the others ran towards the deeper residence. Their purpose is to find a time machine. As long as the time machine is used to rewrite history, all those who died in this crisis can be resurrected. However, shortly after everyone left, the infected Fire Girl and Ice Girl appeared in front of Big Barda and Mr. Miracle. The two tried to defeat them, but the frost released by the Ice Girl froze Big Barda's body. And the flames released by the Fire Girl also enveloped Mr. Miracle. There are more and more zombies. Under the siege of the transformed Fire Girl and Ice Girl, the two were finally exhausted and completely overwhelmed by the zombie group. The picture came to the other side. Jin Shanfang, Mr. Excellence and others were running wildly in the passage. Zombies kept attacking them, but under Mr. Jin's energy ray, most of the zombies were killed. The three ran to the basement. They must find the time machine as soon as possible. At this time, in a pocket dimension, a place called the Forgotten Bar. Constantine was sitting at the bar drinking alone. A monkey named Bobo was adding drinks to Constantine. Bobo, give me a drink that will make the phantom stranger forget his own name. Bobo spoke in human language. It looks like the situation outside is very bad. Alas, Constantine sighed deeply. He stared at the drinks on the counter for a long time. Finally, he cursed, I have to go. If anyone asks me where I've been, tell them I've gone to be that hero. The scene returns to the mountaintop residence. When Jin Shanfang and the other two found the time machine, there was an uninvited guest standing next to the time machine. Time Master Talong, a captor from the Future Lord organization, stopped everyone and stopped Jin Shanfang and the others from using the time machine. You are arrested, Jin Shanfang, this machine will be confiscated, and you. Before the Time Master could finish, another voice interrupted him. Hey, Constantine walked out of the teleportation circle, look at the fireworks face for me. Can you see my future? Without waiting for the Time Master to answer, Constantine continued, you definitely can't see my future, right? Can't. The Time Master showed a hint of doubt. He didn't understand what Constantine meant. Now look at what I have in my hand. Constantine approached, I have a big secret in my hand. The Time Master was even more confused, what secret? I didn't see anything. The Time Master was not greeted by Constantine's reply. Instead, he received a fierce headbutt. Constantine hit the Time Master's head hard. The Time Master fell to the ground instantly, holding his nose with a look of pain on his face. It seems you didn't foresee this move, Time Lord. The golden vanguard at the side was stunned. You are. This is my most powerful magic, Constantine said with a smile. Real world, DC main universe. You see, Constantine's most powerful magic is deception, and he has no bottom line in deceiving others' trust. Zatanna looked disdainful. He is a qualified liar, I admit that. Dead Man Brand smiled bitterly, but it is really effective, isn't it? He actually sneaked up on the people of the Lord of Time. This is probably something that even magic can hardly do. Raven laughed. Uncle Zhikong, you are so amazing. Madame Chengdu nodded. Although John escaped from danger, he finally chose to bear the danger and become a hero. I never deny that John is a cunning liar, but he is also a hero with justice in his heart. Constantine snorted coldly. It's just a means of survival. Dark magic will only bring misfortune. I have more say than anyone here. In the Star City laboratory in Midtown, Wally stared at the light screen with a frown. Mr. Excellence tries to change history through a time machine. Will this method succeed? Success. Impossible. Barry shook his head very seriously. Traveling through time and space will not change the established timeline. It will only create a more uncontrollable flashpoint timeline, and the cost is not something we can afford. Wally shrugged. What if it only changes a little bit? No, any change will cause a huge butterfly effect, Barry said seriously. I advise you not to mess with the timeline. That thing is not something we can control. The picture on the screen continued to play. The wall next to Constantine was suddenly shattered by a huge force. The next second, Big Barda with blood on his face appeared from the gap. At this time, Big Barda had become a zombie. He rushed towards Constantine with his fangs and claws. Constantine, Mr. Excellence flew over and kicked Big Barda away. As a result, the next second, the zombie Big Barda pounced on Mr. Excellence. With a heart-wrenching roar, Mr. Excellence was torn in half by the zombie Big Barda. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. On the other side, Golden Vanguard also had problems. He fell to the ground in pain, and his body began to slowly disappear. Good friend Teddy exclaimed, "What's going on?" The Time Master looked at everyone and said in a flat tone, "It's the Kryptonian Kal-El. He found the Earthling Barry Allen in the ruins of Keystone City. This is where it all ends. You have lost the future, and the Golden Pioneer that came from the future will no longer exist." As Teddy screamed, the Golden Pioneer completely disappeared before his eyes. Before Teddy could recover from his grief, the zombies surrounded him and knocked him down. In the end, he was torn to pieces. After a series of efforts, this rescue team was finally wiped out. "Now that it's over, I should leave," said the Time Master calmly. "Goodbye, Constantine, but judging by the current situation, you will never see me again." Constantine looked at Mr. Excellence and others who were being eaten, his face gloomy. "You just walked away like that. Are you satisfied now? Is this the timeline you want to protect?" The Time Master snorted coldly. "You should think about how to escape from here. Or being bitten to death by zombies is also a good ending for you." Ah ha ha. Constantine was so angry that he laughed. He suddenly grabbed the wrist of the Time Master. "Guess what? You totally pissed me off. Now, you will die with me." The Time Master was stunned, unable to move an inch. There was a trace of panic on his face. "What did you do? Why can't I move?" "I am a Time Lord, your magic cannot." Constantine interrupted. "We are connected. Now I can see your future, too, which is to die with me. Accept your end, Time Master." In the horrified eyes of the Time Master, the zombies rushed towards him and tore him to pieces in a few seconds. Constantine watched everything that was happening expressionlessly. After the zombies bit the Time Master, they rushed towards Constantine again. Just when he thought he was dead, a sonic boom channel suddenly opened. Then, a middle-aged man wearing a helmet and a beautiful woman wearing black silk appeared in front of Constantine. The audience was familiar with the helmeted man. It was Dr. Fate. The long-legged lady in black silk was the magician Zatanna. But Zatanna chanted a spell to isolate the zombies from the outside world. "John Constantine," Dr. Fate said in a hoarse voice, like an old charlatan, "this is not your time, another destiny is waiting for you." Another paragraph. Constantine suddenly punched Dr. Fate in the face. "You stupid idiot, why didn't you come here earlier? I was saved at the last moment, but all the heroes who really wanted to save the world died." Constantine covered his painful right hand. Dr. Fate's helmet was harder than he thought. Constantine continued to roar, Mr. Excellence was torn in half to save me. I'm sorry, Constantine, Dr. Fate replied, but this is their fate. Shut up, Constantine roared, I never believe in fate. Believing in fate will make you abandon your humanity. Dr. Fate said in a serious voice, no, Constantine, you exist to save more people. Lord of Chaos and Order. The world is coming to an end, John Constantine, we must prepare for the disaster that is to come. The world needs you. Constantine silently lit a cigarette. I am John Constantine, the detective of hell. Until I make a ruthless statement, the world will not be over. The real world, the main DC universe. Superman in Metropolis, Batman in Gotham City, Green Arrow and Green Lantern in Star City. Countless superheroes were watching the screen at this time. In a sense, Constantine was not worthy of being called a hero. Because he often used deception rather than magic. He was always used to deceiving everyone, including his friends. He was a gambler, a villain with no bottom line, and a coward who fled from the battlefield. People who knew Constantine would always describe him as a scum, a liar or a fool. However, when the screen showed him lighting a cigarette, a lonely image of a lone hero was perfectly set off. Do you believe that Constantine can save the Earth, or do you believe that I am Batman? Haha, don't make me laugh, you can be Batman. But I don't believe Constantine will save the world. He's a cheating fool, and he's supposed to save the world. Don't be fooled by his actions, Constantine is essentially an idiot. On the streets of England, people who are familiar with Constantine do not hide their contempt. This contempt is deeply rooted in the base of the Dark Justice League. Mrs. Chengdu looked at Constantine with a smile on her face. John, it seems that you will be the most crucial part of this story. John always comes into play at the most critical moment. Lord of Chaos and Order. Raven frowned slightly. What is that thing, Uncle Constantine, do you know? Constantine thought for a moment, but shook his head. Dead Brand laughed. I have to say, John's last cigarette lighting action was very handsome, and it is estimated that he will charm thousands of girls. Etlegin said sourly, what's the use of being handsome, be careful of lung cancer. In the Batcave of Gotham City. Batman, Nightwing and Damian are discussing. Nightwing asked, Mr. Wayne, have you worked with Constantine? What kind of person is he? Batman thought carefully, this person is very complicated, and his behavior always does some extraordinary things. But he did provide a lot of help to the Justice League. Especially at some critical moments, he can always turn the tide and solve the crisis. With a burst of pleasant music. Today's series of videos on the death of heroes has ended. Viewers around the world have resumed their busy daily lives. Those who need to work should work, and those who need to save the world should save the world. Waller of the Sky Eye Bureau has recruited a group of death row prisoners. Lex Luther spent a lot of money to call back Deathstroke from the battlefield in the Middle East. Harley Quinn failed to assassinate the Joker, and fled with poison ivy. A piece of news about a secret female force fighting crime in Metropolis was published in the Daily Planet. As the light screen appeared longer, most people have gradually become accustomed to this huge screen embedded in the sky. And the video content played on the screen every day has become the content of people's daily after-dinner conversations. Time flies, and it's the next day in a blink of an eye. Amidst everyone's expectations, the second video of the Hero's Death series began to be released on the light screen. Metropolis, after Captain Atom's nuclear explosion. The world was devastated and dead silent. In the next few days, the partners of the Justice League destroyed internet servers in various countries. Wonder Woman chopped up the satellite, and Superman burned the submarine optical cable. The internet achievements of the human world were completely destroyed. In order to obtain enough living space, Wonder Woman, Melania and Superman worked together to lift Paradise Island from the bottom of the sea. The area of Paradise Island has increased to accommodate more people came to the island to take refuge. Gotham City. After Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn eliminated the Raptor Zombie Squad, Poison Ivy controlled the vines to wrap the entire city. Today's Gotham City is covered with tall walls made of vines. The former crime capital has become extremely safe under the protection of these plants. Outside the vine wall at this time, Green Lantern, Canary, Green Arrow and Batman came here. But now Batman seems to be shorter and younger. The perspective shifts from his back to his face. It turns out that the person wearing the bat suit at this time is Bruce Wayne's son, Damian Wayne. After a series of changes, Damian has become more mature. Just as Green Arrow said, Damian now looks more and more like his father. As early as the top floor of the Daily Planet, Alfred handed over Batman's legacy to Damian. It was a bat suit tailored for Damian, and a data hard drive containing the weaknesses of all the members of the Justice League. Even though the ultimate stress monster, the old man, has died, he still puts pressure on his teammates in the Justice League all the time. The Gotham forest grew in just 1 week, Damian said. It's obvious who lives inside, and we need this place as a refuge for humans. Green Arrow asked, are you sure it's appropriate for you to negotiate? You are not good at dealing with people. Damian said calmly, Poison Ivy is not a human. In the real world, in the DC main universe, Poison Ivy, who was fleeing to other places on a bus in the suburbs of Gotham, saw this scene and instantly blushed. This brat, he said, I'm not a human. No, I want to go back to Gotham and beat up his dad. Harley Quinn at the side quickly grabbed her and said, we are fugitives now. Both the black and white worlds are hunting down our fugitive. We are Poison Ivy that cannot be exposed. But that guy's words were too venomous. He actually said that I was not a human being. Let's talk about this after we find a place to settle down. Harley Quinn hugged Poison Ivy tightly. Don't be impulsive. Think about Mr. Lin, who you've been thinking about all the time. Let's go find him, okay? But we don't know where he went. Harley Quinn's eyes rolled. We can look for him city by city, starting with Metropolis. Why Metropolis? Asked Poison Ivy. Superman is in Metropolis. Just keep a low profile. Harry licked his lips, and I heard there's a cafe in Metropolis that has delicious coffee. Maybe we can tie up the person who made the coffee, and drink coffee while we look for Mr. Lin. To read the exciting novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. That's a good idea. As the two rebellious girls were discussing, the screen continued to play. Just as Damian and the other two were talking, there was a rustling sound of footsteps behind them. Be careful, it's Killer Croc. The one rushing from behind was the zombie Killer Croc. A half-crocodile, half-human zombie. Damian reacted very quickly and threw the bat mark at the zombie Killer Croc. The Green Arrow on the other side also quickly drew his bow and shot arrows. The arrow and the bat mark pierced into Killer Croc's body at the same time. But the next second, the vines on the ground suddenly shrank, and then attacked Killer Croc from behind. The zombie Killer Croc was instantly pierced through the chest and died completely. However, the vines seemed to have activated the defense mechanism. More vines attacked Damian and the other two. Instantly wrapped the three people and lifted them into the air. Just as Black Canary tried to crush these vines with the power of Green Lantern. Damian shouted, don't hurt these plants. What? Don't hurt the plants, Damian repeated. But the next second, the vine wall began to wriggle. A hole appeared on the wall. Then, Poison Ivy in a green grass skirt and Harley Quinn in a gorgeous outfit emerged from the cave. Look who we caught. A crocodile, a little bat and two idiots, Harley Quinn said with a smile. Poison Ivy glanced at the three people who were hung up. What are you doing here? Why would Robin dress up as a short Batman? Damian deadpanned, Batman is dead. I am his successor. Harley Quinn's face froze. What? How could Grandpa Bat? Sorry, this is unfortunate news. Poison Ivy raised her arms and freed the three from the vines. Batman Damian directly stated the purpose of his visit. Poison Ivy, we are looking for shelter for survivors. We are also discussing this, Harley Quinn said. I have been trying to persuade Poison Ivy to be a benevolent queen of the jungle. If she agrees, I will be very happy. Poison Ivy frowned. I can let the survivors in, but there are conditions that must be followed. According to the will of the green of all things, the survivors can eat its fruit. But if anyone harms the green of all things, they will be immediately expelled and sent outside to feed the zombies. Damian said calmly, okay. We agree to all the terms. The scene changes to the Fortress of Solitude in the Arctic. At this time, hundreds of superheroes and villains are gathering in the Fortress of Solitude. The Flash and Kid Flash, Lex Luther, Firestorm, Hawkgirl, Supergirl. With the cooperation of Lex Luther and Cyborg, the Fortress of Solitude was transformed into a new base for superheroes to gather. They designed a new closed-circuit communication system, and the Fortress of Solitude became a new intelligence hub. At the conference table, Luther praised, "Your skills are really amazing, Victor. Why haven't we worked together before?" Cyborg grinned, "Because you always wanted to kill me and my friends before. But now it seems that you are still very useful," Luther said with a smile. "Our plan is great, and many people will survive because of it." The green arrow on the side couldn't understand the design drawings on the table, so he asked, "What are you talking about? Can you tell me something I can understand?" Cyborg replied, "This is a plan, the Ark plan. The Ark can accommodate 7 million people." Luther added, "It will take us away from here." Superman frowned slightly. "We will not leave. The Earth is our home." Luther shook his head slightly. "You have to know, Superman, I am the smartest person on this planet." "Wait, Victor, let me check again. Batman is dead, right?" Cyborg nodded. "Yes. Then I am the smartest person on the planet, literally," Luther continued. "The world is doomed. It's hopeless. If we want human civilization to continue, we have to leave this dying planet." Superman frowned. "Abandon our homes? Are we just going to give it up? We have to fight for it." Luther looked at Superman's hesitation and smiled with his 2 rows of white teeth. Having lost 2 home planets in his lifetime, Mr. Superman looks like he's going to cry. Luther. But the next second, a fist hit him hard on the side of his face. Instantly, his nose bled violently, and Luther was completely stunned, covering his nose in pain. "Louise, if you dare to talk shit to my husband again, I will slap you. Shut up, understand? We need your brain, but we don't need you to do anything else." Lex Luther covered his nose in pain. In the real world, in the Lex Group building, Luther looked at the screen where he was beaten. His face turned green with anger. He was beaten by a woman. Why? Captain Cold laughed unabashedly. "I didn't expect Mr. Luther to be beaten by a woman." Mr. Luther must be very depressed when this kind of thing was projected on the light screen. Not far from Captain Cold, another strong man was sharpening the blade in his hand. "This is the price of talking big," Deathstroke said in a hoarse voice. "You can piss off Superman, but don't piss off his woman." Luther snorted coldly. "I paid you to come here just to laugh at me. I just don't want to bother with a woman." Inside the Daily Planet building, Superman looked at the screen thoughtfully. The boastful Luther and Lois who taught him a lesson were not the focus of Superman's attention. He didn't expect that the Fortress of Solitude would become a gathering place for a group of superheroes. Lex Luther, his life enemy, also became a comrade in arms. The desperation of the zombie crisis brings heroes and villains together. This is a surprising place. This may be a turning point for this crisis. The images on the screen continued to play. In the next few weeks, the heroes joined forces to search for survivors all over the world and bring them back to the safe zone. Whether it is the Gotham Forest or the Amazon Paradise Island, at this moment, it has become a refuge for human survivors. The Ark project is in full swing. It won't be long before he can carry the survivors away from this dying planet. After a series of emergencies, the heroes finally had a chance to breathe. They rested and thought, and even mourned the dead. Everyone thought at that moment that the situation was under control. Things were moving in a better direction. But the fact is that a bigger crisis is quietly approaching. This crisis has never been truly contained. A few days later, in the Fortress of Solitude, just as the heroes were talking and laughing about the future, a shrill scream rang in their ears. Firestorm, Hawkgirl, Lex Luther, Green Arrow and others covered their ears, their faces full of pain. This scream came from in their hearts, ignoring any physical noise reduction methods. The next second, a green figure rushed over. Before anyone could react, Lex Luther was cut in half. The shock shocked everyone. The Flash looked around, trying to find the murderer who killed Lex Luther. But the murderer had already appeared behind the Flash like a ghost. The green claws suddenly scratched his ribs. With a heart-wrenching wail, the Flash was scratched. At the same time, the zombie that attacked the Fortress of Solitude also revealed its face. It was a green monster with fangs. It was the Martian hunter who had disappeared for a long time. Everyone was shocked to see Barry infected. But the biggest crisis at the moment was the zombie Martian hunter. It was seen that it turned into a huge green octopus monster with a roar. Countless tentacles swept across the heroes. The Flash dodged the tentacles that shot out. Green Lantern Canary released the power of the lantern ring to fight back. Firestorm shouted, "Go!" The whole person turned into a human-shaped rage. Huge pillars of fire gushed out from his hands. The scorching heat quickly spread throughout the hall. Amidst the heart-wrenching roars, the zombie Martian hunter, who had turned into a huge monster, was burned to death by the flames. When everything was over and everyone came to their senses, the figure of the Flash had disappeared. "Barry, where is it?" the Flash asked in panic. Superman came and locked onto the Flash with his supervision. "He is running, and now he is the zombie Flash." Wally was anxious. "I'll catch him." "No." Superman stood in front of Kid Flash with a serious face. "This is not something you should do." "Oh my God," said Superman. Green Arrow on the side looked surprised. "Do you really think you can catch it, Clark?" "No," Superman said solemnly, "I will intercept him from the front." In the real world, in Midtown, Barry Allen was looking at the light screen with a serious face. He had turned into a zombie on the light screen. He was traveling around the world at a terrifying speed, infecting people all over the world. No matter ordinary people or people with superpowers, they could not defend themselves against Barry's terrifying speed. In just over 10 minutes, more than 100,000 people had been infected. Barry said in panic, "Batman is right, Wally and I should stay in Keystone City and not come out." Wally said with an ugly face, "If any one of us turns into a zombie, the world will be over." Caitlin asked hurriedly, "Is there any way to stop it? Can Superman stop it?" Barry Allen said solemnly, "I don't know, but I have a bad feeling." Cisco reminded, "This series of videos foreshadows the existence of zombie Superman at the beginning." "Did you infect Superman?" "This." Barry Allen's pupils shrank slightly. "This is impossible. How can I break Superman's steel body?" "What if it's a super high-speed collision?" Cisco said, "like a wild goose crashing into a plane. Maybe you are the wild goose that lost control." Cisco's words made Barry Allen fall silent instantly. In the Batcave, Damian frowned. "Uncle Clark shouldn't have brought the Flash out. The safest way is to completely wipe them out. Superman will not hurt his comrades." Nightwing said, "The situation is out of control and it is impossible to predict. The Flash is infected, and Superman is ready to stop it himself." Batman's voice is hoarse. "Not only is the zombie Flash born, I'm afraid a more terrifying zombie Superman is about to be born." Under Batman's worried gaze, the screen continued to play. To read the best novels, go to Faloo Novel Network. At this time, the zombie Flash is attacking survivors all over the world. Death continues wherever he passes. At the same time, Superman Clark is also flying above the earth. Cyborg, is the Flash dead? "I'll die, I promise." Cyborg asked, "How are you going to catch up with him?" Superman replied, "I don't need to catch up with him, I can intercept from the other side, I'm going to hit it." As Superman's voice fell, his body began to fly around the earth at super high speed. The speed of the galloping broke the limit. Finally, during one of the detours, Superman ran straight into the zombie Flash. That day, we witnessed what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. The scene came to the sea. When the zombie Flash and Superman collided, the zombie Flash was instantly shattered into pieces of flesh and blood. The internal organs, ribs and head were completely disintegrated and shattered at the moment of the collision. When everything was over, Superman was suspended on the sea. "I'm sorry." Halfway through the conversation, I felt a pain in my lower abdomen. He looked down and saw that 2 of the Flash's finger bones had pierced his skin. The zombie virus began to spread in Superman's body. Superman was infected. Superman immediately entered a super fast thinking state, and the world suddenly stopped. Superman, covered in blood, returned to the Fortress of Solitude. Another speedster resumed action in the super fast world. Kid Flash saw Superman falling from the sky, with a look of panic on his face. Because he saw that Superman was injured in the abdomen. Kid Flash covered his mouth in shock. "I'm sorry Barry's gone," Superman said dejectedly, "and I'm leaving soon too. Wally, I want you to channel the Speed Force into Lois, Joe, and my mom. I want to say my final goodbye." Wally immediately called the 3 of them over. The moment the Speed Force was poured into their bodies, the 3 of them had a short period of high-speed thinking ability. During this last period of time, Clark said his final goodbye to his family. Clark expressed his gratitude to his adoptive mother Martha. He expressed his love to Lois. He expressed his guilt and encouragement to Joe. When time was still, it was just a moment for others. But for Superman and his family, it was a lifetime farewell. After saying goodbye, Superman Clark flew straight out of the universe. Superman's plan was simple. He wanted to get as far away from the Earth as possible before the virus took over his body. Then let himself die in the vacuum environment of outer space. However, the speed of viral infection far exceeded his expectations. In the painful feeling that his brain seemed to explode, a thick and extremely hot line of sight cut through outer space out of control. Superman's face was slowly replaced by hideousness as he screamed. His eyes were no longer full of peace and hope, but were replaced by madness and brutality. Superman failed to kill himself at the last moment of his life. He changed. In the real world, civilians in the streets and alleys looked at the screen. They watched Superman slowly transform into a zombie in outer space. Fear flowed in their eyes. Many people subconsciously covered their mouths. Zombies. In Superman. Oh my God, who can defeat Superman if he turns into a zombie? Batman is no longer here. The story of the hero's death is too desperate. Batman, Green Lantern, Flash, Aquaman and Superman are all dead. Of the 7 giants, only Cyborg and Wonder Woman are still alive. Is there really hope for this world? The audience was extremely depressed. Superman turned into a zombie and became the biggest threat to the survivors. At the same time, in the Batcave in Gotham City, the Lex Tower in Metropolis, and even in the secret base of the Dark Justice League, heroes and anti-heroes all fell silent. Superman's power is unquestionable, and a Superman infected and turned into a zombie will be an even more terrifying existence. Lex Luther frowned and held the wine glass in his hand. If the zombie Superman really exists, then the only one who has a chance to defeat him is probably Bizarro. This cloned Superman made up of human and Superman DNA may become the last resort to save the world. Batman in the Batcave is also considering a response plan. Perhaps it is time to acquire a large amount of kryptonite. If a zombie Superman appears in this world, heroes will need a large amount of kryptonite weapons for emergencies. Many people still have hope in the end of the world. People want to believe that everything will be all right. Heroes won't abandon them until the mortal god in a red cloak appeared in their sight again. On the rooftop of a city in heavy rain, the survivors looked at the slowly falling figures in the sky, with long-lost smiles on their faces. They saw Superman, the superhero who gave them hope. But the next second, the high-rise building full of survivors exploded violently. The body of zombie Superman kept shuttling between buildings. He madly killed every human in the corner of the building. There is no Clark in this world anymore. There is only zombie Superman who brings endless despair to people. In the ruins of the building, zombie Superman slowly stood up. Its eyes shot out huge energy beams. Wherever the beams went, all the pavilions and towers were turned into ruins. Under his feet were burnt bones with only skeletons left. The raging fire burned the entire city, and the heat vision was like the scythe of the god of death. It kept tearing the earth apart. At this time, in the Fortress of Solitude, the superhumans led by Cyborg were making plans. They already knew about the existence of zombie Superman, and now they had to leave this planet immediately. We must escape from here before zombie Superman smashes the Ark, Cyborg said to everyone. It only takes one breath to easily destroy the 2 arcs. Wonder Woman looked solemn. We need someone to hold it back. Otherwise, we can't leave this planet safely. Green Lantern Canary frowned. Diana, even if you want to fight Superman, it will be extremely difficult. If you are also infected, the consequences will be disastrous. At this moment, Batman Damian came to the crowd. Maybe we can try this. Damian showed a box with a Superman symbol engraved on it. It was one of Batman's legacies. Inside was a piece of kryptonite that emitted a green glow. My father has a kill plan for every mainstream hero that poses a threat, Damian said. Wow, Batman is indeed the real deal, Green Arrow exclaimed. Even if he's dead, he can still kill me. Actually, Damian said, he didn't leave any plans for you, Green Arrow. Green Arrow was stunned, and 1,000 horses ran through his mind. Bruce thinks I'm not a threat. Green Arrow's voice was a little louder. That's because he doesn't understand me. As long as I want, I can become Batman's biggest threat at any time. It can be seen that Green Arrow's self-esteem has been deeply hurt. Not only him in the light curtain, but also him in reality. In the real world, Star City. Green Arrow stared at the light curtain with an ugly face. What does Batman mean by this? Does he look down on me? Black Canary on the side pouted, he just thinks you are weak. This is too hurtful. Green Arrow curled his lips. The screen continued. Superman's weaknesses are kryptonite and magic. In order to fight him, Diana took out the artifact of Paradise Island, the Sword of Athena, and forged it with kryptonite. In a blink of an eye, a large private room emitting a kryptonite halo was cast into the world. I will personally cut off Clark's head, Wonder Woman said solemnly. It's not a difficult thing for me. The troops split into two groups. Batman, Damian and Kid Flash and others came to Gotham City. The Ark was landed, and next they had to transport the refugees here. I will not abandon the green of all things, said Poison Ivy. I decided to stay here. Harley Quinn, who was standing beside her, said the same thing. I will not abandon Poison Ivy, who will not abandon the green of all things. The two best friends stood on the wall built of vines, holding hands. They watched the Ark spacecraft slowly fly into the air. On the other side, in the Paradise Island shelter, a huge storm swept across the island. But unlike conventional disasters, the seawater carried by this storm was blood red. The survivors who were boarding the Ark looked at the huge waves in horror. The heroes stood in front of the embankment, looking solemnly at the deep sea. In the deep and dark sea, something was approaching Paradise Island quickly. Mila, who had taken refuge in Paradise Island, had an extremely ugly face at this time. She knew that person, it was coming. In a blink of an eye, the seawater around Paradise Island turned red. The blood like red was dyed by the blood of countless Atlanteans. There was a pungent stench in the seawater. That was the unique stench of a dead body, a symbol of death and corruption. The next second, a huge sea monster made up of octopus, sperm whale, jellyfish and other creatures broke out of the water. The huge body was 100 feet long. High, the tentacles entangled together are hideous and terrifying. The moment the sea monster showed its body, the dense zombies lying on its tentacles landed on Paradise Island like ants with the waves. The monster's body was towering into the sky. It was the zombie sea monster Traken (BGCB) that had completely transformed into a corpse. At this time, there was a figure standing on the head of the zombie Traken. The picture zoomed in, and it was the dead lord of the seven seas, the zombie transformed Sea King. The next second, the zombie Sea King let out a hoarse roar. More the Atlantis zombies crawled out from under it. Like reptiles, they crawled densely onto Paradise Island. The roar of Aquaman continued. It kept summoning the Atlantis zombies, and it wanted to slaughter all the creatures on this island. The next second, an arrow pierced through the waves and went straight through Aquaman's eye socket. The roar stopped abruptly. The perspective was given to the man who was drawing the bow and shooting the arrow. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Green Arrow said in a serious tone, Batman, can you translate for me? What the hell, am I not the biggest threat? Look who I killed. Aquaman Arthur. Aquaman was shot by Green Arrow. His body fell into the sea from the top of the sea monster Traken. But this does not mean that everything is over. Because more Atlantis zombies crawled onto the land. Millions of Atlanteans, huge numbers and terrifying faces. No one thinks these zombies can be easily dealt with. In order to buy time for the civilians to escape, Mela, Queen Hippolyta led the female warriors of Paradise Island to charge at this group of deep-sea zombies. The fierce battle was in the battle started between the Atlantis zombies and the Amazon female warriors. Blood and flesh flew everywhere, and screams came one after another. The heads of the Atlantis zombies were cut off, and the limbs of the Amazon female warriors were torn off. The bloody slaughter made this place a kind of meat grinder like hell. However, the Atlantis zombies almost came out in full force, numbering in the millions. The female warriors of Paradise Island soon fell into a disadvantage. They were soon drowned in the zombie army like a tsunami. The warriors fell one by one. The survivors continued to fight. Even though their arms had been torn and their faces had been bitten to pieces, their tenacious fighting spirit supported them to continue fighting. until the last female warrior was completely submerged by the zombie tide. There was no more shouting in the world. There was only the endless roar and chewing. Finally, the refugees boarded the Ark and fled Paradise Island. And the female warriors on the island were completely wiped out after completing their mission. In the real world, the DC main universe, the audience witnessed the Amazon female warriors sacrificing themselves to protect civilians. They all showed respectful looks. The world never despises those who protect the weak. The world will always remember those who sacrifice themselves to protect the weak. At this time on Paradise Island, the islanders looked at the screen with tears in their eyes. Especially those Amazon female warriors who saw themselves sacrificed in the battle to protect the weak. Their eyes were wet, full of pride and regret. Queen Hippolyta and Diana stood together. The mother and daughter also had wet eyes at this moment, but they showed a smile at the corners of their mouths. "This is the Amazon, Diana," Hippolyta said with a smile. Diana nodded. "I am proud to be an Amazon." As the Ark completed its mission, it slowly sailed out of the Earth. At this moment, on a continent in the southern hemisphere, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Canary and Cyborg were flying in a ruin with solemn faces. The three of them were already the three strongest superheroes that the Earth could dispatch. And they came here for only one thing. That is to kill Zombie Superman. At this time, Zombie Superman was like a gas tank with a broken pressure relief valve. Blood red hot vision continued to shoot out of his eyes. There was a sea of fire all around, and the Earth was devastated. Zombie Superman was frantically destroying everything around him. The three of them hovered in the sky. Green Lantern Canary transformed into a huge horn, and the huge sound waves suppressed Zombie Superman to the ground and he could not move. But this suppression was short-lived. Especially when Zombie Superman saw the huge arc in the sky and felt the life force full of the arc. Zombie Superman instantly entered the violent mode. Next, the three heroes versus Zombie Superman. The coffee shop was full at this time. But in sharp contrast, the whole room was completely silent. Customers were hovering in the air with their coffee cups in their hands. Without exception, they all raised their heads and stared at the picture on the screen. Wonder Woman, Cyborg and Green Lantern Canary, can they defeat Zombie Superman? Didn't Wonder Woman create a giant kryptonite sword? But I always have a bad feeling. At this moment, Catherine twisted her mature big butt and came to the middle of the crowd. Our store introduces a new way of entertainment. Guess whether the three heroes can defeat the Zombie Superman. Buy now and leave now. No cheating. Get rich overnight. There is no shortage of gamblers in the metropolis, and soon customers began to place bets under the instigation of the boss lady. It is simple to bet on winning or losing, the rules are simple and the process is exciting. Soon it was sought after by a large number of customers. Lin Mo, do you want to try? This is your salary and bonus for this period of time. Catherine handed over a thick stack of banknotes. Do you want to try your luck? Lin Mo frowned slightly, then relaxed. He casually threw the stack of banknotes he had just received onto a gambling table option. Seeing Lin Mo so calm, Catherine couldn't help but ask. So confident, win is guaranteed. The screen continued to play. The violent Zombie Superman quickly broke free from his restraints and rushed towards the Ark. Green Lantern Canary immediately formed a barrier, trying to stop Zombie Superman. Behind Zombie Superman, Cyborg released electron beams and continuously attacked. But the attack was painless and had no effect on Zombie Superman. At this time, Green Lantern Canary had almost done her best to maintain the shield. Just before she was about to give up, Diana came over with a big green sword in her hand. She held the sword in both hands and chopped at Superman's arm with all her strength. The next second, Superman flew into the air. This sword actually cut off Zombie Superman's arm. While Zombie Superman didn't react, Diana continued to swing the big green sword. Puff! With a sound, the long sword pierced the heart of the Zombie Superman. In order to kill it completely, Diana twisted the blade in her hand and crushed the heart of the Zombie Superman completely. After doing all this, Diana thought everything was over. She subconsciously wanted to draw the sword. However, when she really exerted force, the blade did not move at all. Looking up, she saw the Zombie Superman looking at Diana with a ferocious face. The Zombie Superman had already died, and crushing the heart was not a fatal injury to him. In the next second, the zombie Superman used his only remaining left arm to pierce Diana's lower abdomen. Blood gushed out instantly. No, Cyborg roared. He started all the engines and tried to hit Superman. But Superman was obviously faster than him. He suddenly soared into the sky and flew towards the spaceship full of life. Cyborg missed and hurried to check on Diana. At this time, Diana was already dying. When she was dying, Diana handed the big green sword to Green Lantern Canary. Green Lantern Canary picked up the sword and chased after the zombie Superman in the sky. Cyborg was still trying to save Diana. As the initiator of all the disasters, Cyborg completely collapsed at this time. His former comrades died one by one, but he was powerless. Cyborg, who was secretly sad, suddenly felt an arm on his shoulder. Diana, are you okay? Cyborg turned his head subconsciously, but the one he met was no longer the brave and fearless Valkyrie. Diana had turned into a corpse and rushed towards Cyborg without hesitation. The three heroes fought against the zombie Superman, but they failed in the end. The scene changed to outer space. The zombie Superman turned into a meteor and approached the Ark spaceship at an unimaginable speed. Looking at the chasing zombie Superman, everyone on the spaceship showed despair. The 7 giants of the Justice League have all fallen. Now, who can save them? At this moment, a figure walked out of the crowd. He took off his coat, revealing the iconic red on his chest, S. Superman's son Joe. Now only he can stop the zombie Superman. Dammy, help me take good care of my mother. Joe hugged Damian tightly. Then he flew away from the Ark spaceship under the latter's solemn gaze. Now, the old generation of heroes have fallen one after another. It is the turn of the new generation of heroes to appear. Under the gaze of millions of people on the Ark spaceship, Superman's son Joe entered the super high-speed flight mode and crashed into the zombie dad. A huge explosion occurred in space. It was the collision of 2 Supermen. After the explosion, Joe fell into a coma and floated in outer space. On the other hand, the zombie Superman was unharmed. Zombie Superman regained his balance, his eyes fixed on the Ark. Now, no one would disturb him. He was going to destroy all the lives on the ship. Just as zombie Superman tried to charge again, a huge green barrier that was the largest in the universe appeared in front of zombie Superman. Then, countless green light spots came rapidly from deep space, like bright green stars streaking through space. When zombie Superman broke the barrier, thousands of Green Lanterns hovered in front of him. Green Lantern Corps, meet us. Green Lanterns from all sectors, Green Lanterns of different races. They received the call from Green Lantern Canary. All stood in front of zombie Superman. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Now, I am not afraid of you, Superman. Green Lantern Canary raised the kryptonite sword in his hand and followed other Green Lanterns to gather the Green Lantern energy. The power gathered by thousands of Green Lanterns is so powerful that even Superman cannot resist it. Bright day, dark night. Ghosts and monsters, nowhere to hide. The heretics and rebels fear my divine light. Green Lanterns chant the Green Lantern Oath, and the power of will reaches its peak at this moment. The nearly materialized Green Lantern energy gushes out. Feeling such a powerful energy fluctuation in front of him, even zombie Superman hesitated. But to be more precise, it was the anti-life equation in zombie Superman that hesitated. The anti-life equation realized that Superman alone could no longer continue to strip away life. So it chose another way to kill. Under the gaze of all the Green Lanterns, zombie Superman got into the sun. Then, he opened his mouth and eyes wide, absorbing the energy from the sun greedily and crazily like a glutton. Superman is going to eat the sun. Green Lantern Commander exclaimed. When he completely devours this giant star, the solar system will die completely. All life will end. This is much easier than infecting people and turning them into zombies. Green Lantern Canary looked at the small black dot inside the sun. Are we just going to let it devour the stars? Green Lantern cannot shine into the interior of the star, the commander replied. We can only block this place, but we can't stop Superman from eating the sun. The zombie Superman crisis has come to an end for the time being. The Ark spacecraft is also escorted by Green Lantern to its new home. But things don't end here. At this time, on Earth, Cyborg did not give up resistance when he was attacked by the zombie Diana. Instead, he snatched the lasso of truth from zombie Diana and tied her up. At this time, Cyborg was frustrated and he casually asked Diana questions. To be more precise, he asked questions to the anti-life equation that controlled Diana. Real, is there no way to stop you? Zombie Diana said in a low voice, it is death. Nothing can stop death. Since you are a virus, Cyborg continued to ask, where is the antidote? Cyborg had no hope when he asked this question. It was just a question he asked casually after he was discouraged. But he never expected that the anti-life equation would give him a surprising answer. Antidote. There has been it right inside you. What? Cyborg was stunned. The antidote has always been with me. Zombie Diana said intermittently, you are a machine and a human body, you are both patient 0 and patient no. 1 inch. You are Alpha, Omega 2. Cyborg recalled those who were killed, those friends. He burst into tears. It turned out that they could be cured, and there was an antidote to the zombie virus. It turned out that the Earth could be saved. Cyborg's eyes were filled with tears. In a panic, he started the engine and tried to leave here. He tried to bring this good news to the survivors on the Ark. However, when he flew only 2 meters above the ground, zombie Diana broke free from the lasso of truth. It grabbed Cyborg's ankle and dragged him back to the ground. In Cyborg's astonished and panicked eyes, zombie Diana held down his head, and the next second, Cyborg's entire head, including the mechanical spine, was torn off. The body collapsed to the ground, and Cyborg's head was thrown into a cliff by zombie Diana. The scene came to the Ark spacecraft. After a period of space travel, the Ark, carrying the last hope of mankind, finally found their new home. Earth 2. Lois, Joe, Damian, Green Arrow, Hawkgirl and other surviving humans. They looked at their new home. Everyone fell into a long silence. Some were remembering the dead, while others were looking forward to the future. Hope is still there, the fire of humanity is still there. But the ultimate evil buried deep in the anti-life equation has not been eliminated. It's far from over. As the new generation of superheroes arrive at their new home, on the Earth that has been identified as a dead planet, a man's struggle has just begun. At the end of the video, a decadent man in a beige windbreaker appears in the picture. He smokes and drinks. With the soft saxophone bar music, he slowly disappears in the screen. Chapter 91. Today's light screen video ended in a relatively heavy atmosphere. It was unusually quiet inside the Silco Cafe. The story of the hero's death made the customers feel extremely heavy. It seems that the 7 giants have all fallen. Superman has directly become the big boss of the universe, drilling into the star and devouring it. The most pitiful one is Cyborg. He just got the most important information, which may reverse the crisis. But the next second, his head was twisted off by the zombie Wonder Woman and his life or death is unknown. As for the back of the person drinking in the bar at the end of the video, it doesn't seem to be that reliable. Lin Mo quietly put the winnings into his pocket. Then he continued his work as if nothing had happened. His eyes turned to the office of Lex Group. The 7 giants were completely wiped out, and the Earth became a real death planet. Do you two have anything to say? Deathstroke shrugged. Even Superman can't stop the crisis, what can I say? Of course I just accept my fate. I agree with Slade's opinion, Captain Cold agreed, we can't stop this disaster. Luther snorted coldly, you are so useless. I now doubt whether recruiting you is the right thing to do. In the Star Laboratory in Midtown, the Flash and others looked unhappy. The Justice League has been completely wiped out, Kid Flash sighed, has the Earth completely turned into a planet of the living dead? I'm more worried about Superman, said the Flash, he's swallowing the sun, which is not good news. Cisco looked solemn, with the size of the sun, it will take many years to absorb it all. But once it is absorbed, the entire solar system will be completely destroyed, and there will be one more star-level zombie life form in the universe. But the figure that appeared on the screen at the end seemed to be the most critical figure. He looked a little familiar. It's John Constantine, said the Flash, the solitary wizard with a London accent. Dark Justice League. Zatanna looked incredulous, how could it be John Constantine? Can he save the world? The swamp monster said in a muffled voice, it's unbelievable, does John really have this ability? It may not work if it relies on magic, but it may work if it is a trick, Itligan laughed. Constantine calmly lit a cigarette. It seems that I will be the next protagonist. Maybe I can really save the world with my tricks. Although this world is very Saudan. The time came to the next morning. At the same time, in the same place. The screen image began to play again. The 7 giants fell, the earth was completely zombieized, and humans fled the earth. How will the story develop next? Everyone is looking forward to it. A slightly sad music sounded. Then a slightly heavy commentary sounded. We lose. We have lost our heroes. The screen keeps flashing back to the scenes of superheroes dying. Batman being torn apart by zombie Robin. Cyborg having his head broken by zombie Wonder Woman. Superman going completely crazy after a virus invaded his brain. Zombie Flash running madly. Green Lantern Hal with a hideous face and zombie Aquaman with scratches all over his face. We lost the whole world. We have lost so much, we even think we have nothing to lose. But we were wrong. In the Forgotten Bar, Constantine was drinking alone. Survivor guilt is a nasty thing. It will get into your soul and stay there forever. It makes the things you loved and lost seem more important. No one in the world has ever better embodied survivor's guilt than John Constantine. Constantine looked at a shoebox beside him. He drunkenly muttered to himself, I think there might be someone else's ashes mixed in there. Chase, I know this box is a little cramped for you. But it is difficult to separate the ashes of a group of people. They are not like snowflakes that are different from each other. Cheers, old friend. Constantine clinked his cup next to the shoebox and drank it all. That's enough, John. At this moment, a magic portal opened. Zatanna, wearing an evening dress, appeared in front of him. This world is despairing enough, you shouldn't drink here alone. Constantine said calmly, I am not alone, Shauza, I am not lonely. Constantine spent several nights drinking from a shoebox of ashes. Next to him sat his ghost friends from the past. The scene returned to the scene where Cyborg was dismembered by the zombie Wonder Woman. Cyborg looked at the sky with despair. John Constantine was never keen on sacrifice. He has sacrificed others for the greater good, but he always avoids becoming a victim himself. And now, Cyborg is the victim. Cyborg's head was casually thrown to the ground by the zombie Wonder Woman. With only a head left, Cyborg still has his own consciousness. He can even think. But, except thinking, he can't do anything else. And he is holding the crucial truth at the moment. But this truth seems to have been unable to be passed on to the survivors. 5 years later, Earth's death planet, the dilapidated Cyborg skull is still looking at the sky. Until one night, Cyborg found something in his system. It was a tracker that Batman secretly placed in his body in order to track him. This Batman is still calculating himself even after his death. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. But none of this matters. Because the existence of the tracker means that Cyborg has the possibility of sending a distress signal to the outside world. Cyborg modified this small tracker. He transformed it into a device that sends signals to the outside world. Then he used up the last bit of energy to send the distress signal to outer space. At the time when everyone thought that the zombie virus was incurable and chose to flee their homes, Cyborg communicates with the anti-life equation and learns that the antidote to the virus is in his body. Now, 5 years have passed since that disaster. The new generation of the Big Three has grown up. The scene comes to Earth 2. Superman's son Joe becomes the new generation of Superman. Wonder Girl grows up and becomes the new Wonder Woman. Damian Wayne inherits the mantle and becomes Batman. Together with Green Arrow, Green Lantern Canary, Hawkgirl and others, they protect their new home. However, a distress signal from their former home breaks their peaceful life. The box Batman left for Damian sounded an alarm signal. The signal came from the decaying Earth, and it was the distress signal sent by Cyborg. The new generation of superheroes gathered in the hall, and they began to discuss whether to go to rescue Cyborg or continue to live a stable life on Earth 2. In the end, they chose to return to the Death Star again in the vote of all the heroes to rescue their former teammates. After 5 years, the Justice League assembled again. When the Justice League returned to the sky above the Earth, they found an old friend in outer space. That was Green Lantern Kilowog. For the past 5 years, the Green Lantern Corps has been stationed here. They took turns to monitor a man who was eating the sun and the increasingly cold earth. When everyone heard this, they immediately looked at the star not far away. Inside the star at this time, the zombies with only steel bodies were endlessly devouring the energy of the sun. Zombie Superman, he is still alive. In the past 5 years, it has been devouring a star without sleep. Green Lantern Kilowog reminded everyone that the Earth is now full of zombies. If they are unfortunately infected, they will kill it without hesitation. After a short conversation, the new generation of superheroes came to Earth. Hawkgirl, Green Arrow, Green Lantern Batman and the new generation of 3 giants. According to the signal, they quickly found the dilapidated head on a piece of grass. Cyborg, Victor, can you hear me? Green Lantern Canary called out. However, after calling for a long time, there was no response. The Wonder Girl beside her picked up the lasso of truth on the ground. If he still has a voice, this will allow him to speak again, Wonder Girl said as she wrapped the lasso of truth around Victor's head. Rory, Cyborg was really awakened. But at this time he was extremely weak. Hawkgirl flew down from the sky. Hey guys, a large group of zombies is approaching. Arrive in 10 minutes. Green Arrow nodded. A large group of zombies is the worst situation, we have to go. Then, Superman held the remains of Cyborg, and Wonder Girl held his head. Everyone was ready to return to the spaceship in the sky. But at this moment, the fully awakened Cyborg had suddenly shouted. She is always here. It's coming. Almost at the moment when Cyborg's voice fell, the hovering spaceship in the sky suddenly exploded violently. A black shadow smashed the cabin and then disappeared. Superman Joe immediately took off and caught the falling cockpit. Just when everyone's eyes were focused on the exploding spaceship, the black figure had appeared behind Green Arrow. Scarlet pupils, blood-stained cheeks and a hideous face. Zombie Wonder Woman appeared. Hug, I'm sorry. Green Arrow only had time to say one sentence before his cheek was torn by the zombie Wonder Woman. Then, his chest was cut open by a sharp claw, leaving a shocking bloody wound. No, Green Lantern Canary yelled, trying to stop it. But it was too late. Green Arrow's chest was torn open and he fell in a pool of blood. Green Lantern Canary instantly fell into madness. She opened her mouth and sent out a super sound wave to attack the zombie Wonder Woman. Green Lantern fell to the ground, groaning in pain. He was transforming at a speed visible to the naked eye. Zombie Green Arrow is coming. The anger made Green Lantern Canary transform into a giant hand and pinned down the zombie Wonder Woman. She raised the god-killing sword with a kryptonite halo. It was the artifact that Diana had given her. Now, Green Lantern Canary wanted to use this big sword to get to know Diana herself. However, at this moment, Cyborg, who was left with only a head, said, "Virus, there is still hope. There is a cure." Superman Joe heard the murmur of Cyborg. He didn't have time to think about it and rushed to the battlefield in an instant. He thought that his steel body could resist the big sword in Black Canary's hand. But he didn't know that the sword was made of kryptonite. The blade easily pierced his chest. Then it pierced into the body of zombie Wonder Woman with a terrifying force. Pierce her throat. The blood instantly dyed the whole screen red. Green Canary pierced Superman's chest and killed zombie Wonder Woman. Outside the light curtain, the audience who saw this scene subconsciously covered their mouths. I didn't expect things to develop to this point. After 5 years of peaceful life on the new Earth, 2 heroes suffered in the first hour of returning to the zombie Earth. Green Arrow was infected by zombie Wonder Woman. Superman was pierced in the chest by the furious Black Canary. The overwhelming despair made the audience subconsciously hold their breath. In Star City, Green Arrow Little Jean. When Green Arrow saw that he was killed like this, his eyes flashed with incredible eyes. I thought I would be the protagonist of this story. I didn't expect to die so soon. Black Canary frowned. I was too impulsive. If I knew Diana could be resurrected, I would never do such a thing. Hal Jordan shrugged. It's too late to say anything now. Stabbed by a kryptonite sword, I wonder if this little Superman can survive. The picture on the screen continued, but the next perspective was focused on a survivor building in Chicago. A man in a red suit and holding a hunting crossbow was observing the zombies on the street. His name is Roy, codenamed Arsenal. He was once a member of the Green Arrow team. 5 years ago, the zombie virus broke out and he was forced to lose contact with the Green Arrow team. Finally, he came to Chicago and took on the mission of protecting the survivors in a building. These monsters are really haunting us. Roy looked at the zombies wandering downstairs with a helpless expression. The armory looked at the other survivors on the roof. Everyone, return to the bunker immediately. We have to reinforce the door to prevent those things outside from running in. Just as the armory was about to leave with everyone else, a scream rang out, Roy. Look what that is. Roy turned his head and looked at the sky. The next second, his face suddenly changed. Oh, get out of here. Hurry. The moment the armory finished saying this, the next second, a strange green fire like a waterfall poured down from the sky. Roy was a mortal hero, and he could not resist this terrifying flame with his mortal body. In a struggle and roar, the armory was burned to ashes. At the same time, more zombies climbed up from downstairs at some point. They tore the isolation net apart and were about to pounce on the survivors in the next second. At this critical moment, a magic portal suddenly opened. Then, a decadent figure in a beige windbreaker appeared in front of the survivors. It was John Constantine, who had survived on Earth for 5 years. But he did not come alone. Several people walked out behind him. From left to right, they are Blue Demon, Red Hood, Zatanna, Plunder, Detective Ape and Tattered Man. They are a search and rescue team formed after the end of the world. They are composed of people with superpowers, magicians, and masters of fighting and firearms. Blue Demon grabbed a nearby telephone pole and stabbed the zombies one by one. Tattered Man waved his tattered cloak and attacked the zombies. Detective Ape Bobo tore the zombies' arms in the simplest and crudest way. Plunderer Rose Wilson, the daughter of Deathstroke, waved a sharp long knife to cut the zombies in half. The most powerful one is Red Hood. He held 2 desert eagles and shot the zombies in the head one by one. Constantine and Zatanna used magic to control the zombies rushing towards them. Zatanna, I hope you can deal with that fire-breathing guy in the sky. Constantine yelled. Zatanna immediately flew up and rushed towards the zombie fire girl. Flames extinguished. Zatanna roared and cast a spell. The flames around the fire girl, who was originally burning with blazing flames, instantly dissipated. It lost power, and its entire body instantly fell to the ground and broke into pieces. At this time, superheroes all over the world. After seeing the members of this doomsday squad, they all had different degrees of emotion. The death knell of Lex Group looked at the plunderer's agile figure. A touch of joy flashed in his cold eyes. I didn't expect that I could see the grown-up version of Rose. She looks healthy and performs well. Captain Cold asked, who is this Rosé? Why is she wearing the same mask as you? That's my daughter, Deathstroke replied hoarsely. Batcave. It's Jason. Damian shouted, I didn't expect he survived this crisis. Nightwing looked at Batman strangely, then laughed, even if it's the end of the world, he is still so violent. How can you survive in a world full of zombies without violence? Ah Fu laughed. Jason has grown up a lot, and he looks like he can handle things on his own. The Bat stared at the screen expressionlessly, remaining silent from beginning to end. To read the novel, go to Falu Novel Network. Star City, inside the Green Arrow team base. Roy, you're on TV, did you see that? Green Arrow shouted to the side. But it only lasted 3 minutes. 3 black lines appeared on Roy's forehead. He was too lazy to pay attention to Green Arrow. In the base of the Dark Justice League. It seems like we have been comrades for 5 years, Constantine said teasingly while looking at Zatanna beside him. Zatanna rolled her eyes. It's a miracle that you have been popular for 5 years in the apocalypse. Mrs. Chengdu smiled. You have all survived for 5 years, and it seems that you are gathering survivors. In the light curtain, after Zatanna defeated the zombie fire girl, everyone called the survivors out of the fortress. The survivors looked at Constantine with gratitude. Sir, what is your name? Constantine instantly put on a bohemian image and said, my name is. Oh my God. A huge green figure appeared behind Constantine. The latter was immediately frightened. He thought it was a mist zombie. But then, the figure spoke, John Constantine. I need to talk to you about something in the garden. The person who came was a huge monster made of green vines. It was the swamp monster, the guardian of all green things. Constantine pointed at the zombies running towards him not far away and said, I want to help you no matter what the matter is about the garden. But we're busy fighting the living dead. Can we talk about botany later? The swamp monster thought for a moment. The next second, countless roots took root from its lower half into the concrete. Then, these vines turned into spikes, and instantly killed all the zombies on the roof. The people who were still fighting hard looked at the swamp monster in a daze. Constantine was dissatisfied. Why didn't you start with this trick just now? Seeing the swamp monster staring at him straight, Constantine lit a cigarette and said, I know about the garden. You are talking about Gotham, right? We will send the survivors there. But the swamp monster shook his head. There are not only 1,060 gardens in Gotham City, but also one in Australia. What? Constantine frowned. I'm not going to Australia. I'm still young and don't want to be poisoned by a stonefish or have my brain eaten by a bear. However, before Constantine could finish his words, the usually silent swamp monster suddenly lost his temper. I've had enough of your broken promises, Constantine. Everyone else looked over and talked about it. It was the first time they saw the swamp monster lose his temper. But the swamp monster continued, there are 2 gardens in this world. One is Gotham City, the home of poison ivy, and the other is in Australia. But now the mute one in Australia has lost contact with me. I could feel it wailing and screaming, and I couldn't just sit there and watch. Besides, there are also surviving humans in Australia's garden. You should come with me to deal with this matter. Constantine nodded helplessly. The survivors here will be handed over to Red Hood. I have to go to Australia with my big brother, the Swamp Thing, who loves to lose his temper. In the real world, the Gotham underworld. When the Penguin saw that Constantine decided to go to Australia with the Swamp Thing, he couldn't help but frown. Could it be Australia that is dumb? The survivors still have that garden, is it being built? The Penguin's eyes revealed a hint of interest. Now I understand the operating logic of this light curtain. The image it is projecting should be something that happened in the parallel world. The fortress of Australia has become the last refuge for mankind. Hee, I'm really a little proud. The scene turns to Gotham City, which is surrounded by plants. The plants in Gotham City have protected Gotham for 5 years. During these 5 years, survivors have joined this huge garden. Today, the masters of this garden are still Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. When Red Hood and his men arrived at Gotham with the survivors, the huge wall made of vines automatically moved and formed a passage leading to the inside. In the passage, Harley Quinn greeted everyone. Welcome, everyone. Nice to meet you. Then she shouted again in surprise. John, Zatanna, Danny, and where's Pop? Could it be that they? Is that cute little gorilla? The Predator carried a long knife and looked calm. Don't be nervous, they just went to Australia together. Oh, that's a bummer, Harley Quinn said with a bored expression. I was ready to cry. The scene changed and came to the core of Gotham Garden. There was a huge white stone tower floating in the core. This was the Tower of Destiny. It was the combination of this tower and the vines of poison ivy that made Gotham Garden as solid as a rock. The poison ivy, who was entangled by the vines, raised her head as if she had sensed something. What is there? Fly over here, she immediately shouted to Dr. Fate and Wonder Mary beside her. Mary, Kent, something is flying in the sky. The two of them understood and immediately used their respective abilities to fly into the sky. Wonder Mary shouted, Shazam! The next second, a lightning bolt appeared out of thin air and hit her body. In a dazzling white light, a female magic superhero wearing a Shazam suit took off into the sky. Wonder Mary is a member of the Shazam family and the sister of Captain Marvel Billy. Dr. Fate and Wonder Mary took off into the sky and flew towards the newcomer. Unexpectedly, the newcomer was not a zombie with the ability to fly. It was the crying Wonder Girl and the little Superman Joe she was holding. It turned out that after the zombie Wonder Woman re-established the Justice League, everyone decided to go to Gotham Garden to try their luck. Green Lantern Black Canary sent the wreckage of the smashed spaceship to the interior of the garden. Several mortal heroes got off the spaceship. Among them was Batman Damian. Damian, a familiar voice came from the crowd. Damian turned his head and instantly showed a look of surprise. Jason, Kathy, you are still alive. A man and a woman walked out of the crowd. The man was wearing a jacket and had a Desert Eagle pistol on his waist. He was naturally Jason the Red Hood. Next to him stood a capable woman wearing a female bat suit. It was Batwoman Cassie Kane. Both of them were members of the Bat family. Damian looked at his two brothers and sister and was very excited. The Red Hood smiled and said, "It seems that you are Batman now." "Father, he wants me to carry on his will," Damian said. Batwoman looked at Damian. "The uniform suits you very well. You look very good." Damian looked at Red Hood with a worried expression. "No problem." Red Hood smiled and said, "Your father made a lot of bad choices. The best thing he did was to make you Batman." The Red Hood hugged Damian tightly. "In the real world, in the Batcave." "Wow, it seems Jason has grown up too," Afu said with a look of relief on his face. "He has obviously let go of the past and is relieved." Damian's eyes were complicated. No matter how bad Jason had done. "But he is my brother after all." Nightwing added, "He is also my brother." Batman stared at the screen with a complicated expression. "Experience may change your mood, but it cannot change your nature. Jason doesn't love. And Cassie, I haven't seen her for a long time." Metropolis, on the balcony of the Daily Planet. Clark looked at the screen helplessly. Xiao Chao is still not experienced enough. It is right for him to block the attack for Diana, but he should directly turn into green like Canary. Instead of taking that blow. Louise on the side couldn't help but sigh. After all, he has only been Superman for 5 years, unlike you who have been protecting the world for more than 10 years. As the discussion continued, the screen continued. When the new Justice League arrived in Gotham Garden one after another, Poison Ivy focused her attention on Green Lantern Canary. More precisely, it was the infected person in Green Lantern Canary's hands. Green Arrow was infected by zombie Diana, and now he was sealed in the energy ball by Green Lantern Canary with Green Lantern energy. "The infected are not welcome here," Poison Ivy said. "We have blocked the anti-life equation for 5 years. Do you think I would let an infected person appear here?" Green Lantern Canary said in a low voice, "I won't abandon him." "Then you leave with him and fend for yourself." Green Lantern Canary barely hesitated. She took the zombie-like Green Arrow away from Gotham Garden. And within 3 seconds of leaving, the long downtime Steelbone Skull suddenly spoke up. "He is not dead. There is a cure." Everyone was stunned when they heard the voice of Steelbone. "Is there an antidote? If there is an antidote, then wouldn't the number of people we have killed in the past 5 years be?" Everyone looked at each other in disbelief. Batman Damian looked at Cyborg's head and asked, "What is the antidote?" Cyborg said weakly, "I once had a conversation with the anti-life equation. He said the antidote is in my body. We have the magic and science at our disposal to repair Cyborg completely," said Dr. Fate. "We may really be able to find an antidote." The camera turned and the view came to Australia. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. At this time, Australia has become a paradise for zombies and monsters. There are rotting and smelly corpses everywhere and terrifying and wailing zombie monsters. But in this purgatory full of monsters, there is still a human survivor camp. That is the garden mentioned by the swamp monster. This garden has a huge steel fortress. The fortress is built on a high mountain. Under the fortress, the huge steel wall resists most of the zombies. The blazing fire outside the wall seems to never go out. And on the periphery of this raging fire, it is covered with a layer of blood-red river. The river will flow and flood from time to time, swallowing the bones and flesh of the corpses that stray into it. In the area outside the river, there are densely packed armies of millions of zombies. In the real world, in the base of the Dark Justice League. Zatanna frowned as she looked at the fortress full of stench. "It's hard to imagine anyone living in a place like this, it looks evil." "Not just evil," the swamp monster frowned, "I can feel the painful cries of the plants." Across the screen, Constantine looked surprised. "Is this your sixth sense that imitates the birth of human beings?" "I'm not imitating, this is my plant instinct," said the swamp monster, "the green of all things told me." Itlagan frowned slightly. "The construction of this survivor fortress is obviously more violent. I doubt that the people living in it are not good people." The raven stuck out his tongue. "I don't think they are good people either." In the light curtain, with the opening of the magic portal, Zatanna, the swamp monster and others walked out of a high mountain not far away. Everyone looked at the millions of zombies below and frowned. The ragged man folded his hands across his chest. I can feel that there are many souls in the fortress. My cloak tells me that everyone here is a bad guy. Constantine looked at the ragged man's cloak with interest. He said nothing, but Zatanna said, "Can you smell the sulfur? How can we get through the wall of fire and get in there?" Constantine suggested, "We can use Zatanna's magic to fly over there." The blue demon grinned, "If that's the method, I think we should just go back to our own homes and take a shower. I don't want to fall into the zombie swarm and be eaten." Although the blue demon said this, the scene changed and everyone flew towards the fortress with Constantine's magic. When everyone was flying over the zombie swarm, below them, millions of zombies raised their heads, staring at the people in the sky with eager eyes. That hungry look made everyone feel creepy. "Apparently we have attracted the attention of the anti-life below," said the tattered man. "Stay alert, everyone," Constantine warned. However, when everyone crossed the blood river, they saw a giant face as big as a basketball court floating up from the bottom of the originally calm blood river. The ragged man who saw this scene instantly exclaimed, "The blood river is changing." The gorilla detective Bobo twitched his nose and his face changed drastically. "That's not blood. That's the plastic man." Almost at the moment when he finished speaking, Qian Zhao's the blood river suddenly rose, and a huge corrupted face attacked everyone. It was the zombie plastic man. The huge body of the plastic man was like a giant beast that swallowed the sky. At the moment when its corrupt forehead was raised, countless red spikes pierced towards everyone in the air. The attack was unexpected, and everyone had no time to react. The ragged man was instantly pierced through the chest and let out a shrill scream. Especially Zatanna, who was casting a floating spell at this moment, but saw several spikes piercing her face. Seeing that she was about to be pierced, "Be careful," the blue demon reacted quickly, swinging the steel fork to cut off the blood-red spikes before the spikes killed Zatanna. However, the blue demon himself was pierced through the mouth by more spikes. The spikes penetrated and burst a blood flower on the back of his neck. Blood splattered in the air, mixed with dismembered and various organs scattered in the air. Constantine roared as he fell towards the bloody mouth of the plastic below. Detective Orangutan Bobo, Zatanna, Swamp Thing and others, deadly injuries, without exception, fell towards the bloody mouth. Such a scene was extremely bloody. However, when the camera slowly lifted from this bloody scene to the fortress, on the high platform of the fortress, several black figures were silently watching this cruel crisis. They looked cold and watched everything that was happening with cold eyes. In the real world, the DC main universe, the audience's hearts were clenched as they watched the magic heroes, including Constantine, being annihilated. The plastic man turned into a zombie and disguised himself as a blood-red river. "This is too scary, a river of living zombies. The magic team won't be wiped out just like that, this is too sudden." Just as the audience was discussing it, the scene jumped to a closed space surrounded by green vines. Zatanna, Swamp Thing, Popo and Constantine were sitting there. "Zatanna, are you okay?" Bobo asked with concern, "Can you breathe normally?" "Okay," Zatanna replied, touching her neck. Constantine beside her also woke up from his coma. He looked at Zatanna blankly. "Are you the god of death? Are we already dead?" Zatanna rolled her eyes. "No. What happened?" "We got beaten badly," Zatanna said sadly. "I remember I was beaten by the tentacle. Why am I still alive?" Bobo replied, "It was the Blue Devil who saved you, but he didn't survive." Bobo picked up the tattered clothes on the ground with a sad face, "And the ragged man is also dead. So where are we now?" Constantine asked. "We are surrounded by zombie plastic men," the swamp monster's voice sounded. The picture gradually zoomed out. On the huge lake formed by the melted plastic men, a huge green plant ball stood. The zombie plastic men transformed into huge deformed monsters, constantly attacking the plant ball, trying to completely devour it. "What should we do next?" Constantine was silent for a moment. "Next to the blood river is the hellfire wall. That's not an ordinary flame. Xiaoza, you have to lead the flame into the blood river." Under Constantine's command, Zatanna opened a passage between the blood river and the wall of fire. Above the wall of fire, the zombie plastic man let out a huge roar. The torn huge face attacked Zatanna. Countless palms made of tentacles tried to grab it. But in the next second, Zatanna released a spell and led the hellfire into her palm. Then it was like a laser beam that blasted towards the zombie plastic man. The body of the plastic man was instantly ignited by the flames. The raging fire that soared into the sky could be seen more than 10 kilometers away. I hate the smell of burning flesh, Constantine said, and the smell of burning plastic. Now the two are combined, which is even worse. Everyone looked at the flames burning above the blood river, their faces full of mixed emotions. Constantine silently picked up the ragtag man's cloak and lit a cigarette. I'm sorry guys, you don't have to come here. After a simple commemoration, everyone walked towards the giant fortress. At the same time, the zombies behind him also climbed up the city wall with the help of the plastic man's body. Constantine was not greeted with a friendly greeting or hug. The moment they landed on the city wall, countless intensive firepower was fired at them. It was an army with rifles, and they fired at Constantine and others in the dark fortress. Everyone fled in a hurry, only the swamp monster stood there quietly. He let the bullets shatter his body, and then quickly recovered. The real target of this army was not Constantine and others. It was the zombies running wildly behind them. Just when Constantine hid behind the bunker and was about to do something, a shout came from the fortress, if you plan to come in, do it as soon as possible. It's too late. Constantine cursed and looked at the iron gate not far away. This is definitely the worst start. When Constantine and others entered the fortress in a panic, they were greeted by a group of villains. The man standing in front of the villains was holding an umbrella, with a hooked nose and a sinister face. It was Gotham's underground Emperor Penguin. The real world, the DC main universe. Batman in the Batcave frowned immediately after seeing the man's face. Penguin, this guy is still alive. Alfu said helplessly. Not only is he alive, he looks like a warlord. Damian complained, the more evil the person, the longer he gets. Gotham's underground world. The Penguin watched his image appear on the screen. He couldn't help but raise a smug smile at the corner of his mouth. He looked at his men with admiration on their faces. See, this is the great Penguin. Even if the Justice League is wiped out, Doomsday can't kill me. Haha, what about the Man of Steel and the Dark Knight? They are just a bunch of clowns in funny costumes. The picture on the screen continued to play. In the Australian Mute Fortress, Constantine and his party were visiting the Doomsday Survivor base led by Penguin. In the concrete building wrapped in vines, there was a soldier with a gun standing guard every few meters. Welcome to the South Fortress, it's very civilized here. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. We have our own army protecting this place. Their families are employed as cleaners or cooks. Zatanna glanced at the depressing atmosphere around her, frowning. This looks more like some kind of slave camp. Are you sure the people here are survivors and not slaves? Bobo and Constantine were whispering. Bobo, this place is like the Garden of Eden, except that all the residents are snakes. Constantine held a cigarette in his mouth. I can't believe that even at the end of the world, the class system has been continued. Not far from Constantine, the swamp monster stroked the vines beside him with a serious face. Here, all the green is crying and screaming. Just as Constantine was about to say something, a figure suddenly called him from the corner, John Constantine. The person Constantine met was Jason Blood, the host of the fire demon Idligan. I knew you were here, Constantine said in surprise. A playboy would definitely come to a group to keep warm, Jason. But Jason was too lazy to argue with Constantine. Can I have a moment with you? I need to talk to you about this place. When the two of them came to a corner where no one was around, Jason immediately shouted, Mortals, retreat quickly. The next second, a demon walked out of the flames. Demon Idligan, reveal your true form. Seeing his old friend Idligan, Constantine couldn't help rubbing his eyes. Could you please stop with your rhyming words? I just lost two good friends, so I'm not in the mood to write poetry with you. Idligan frowned. You are really mean, John Constantine. I'm here to say that hell isn't easy right now. The soul was sealed in the cage of the anti-life equation, so that hell has not received any souls for several years. This angered the Lord, Sangong. Constantine was slightly stunned. Who? What is it going to do? Lord Sangong Demon is unhappy. He is going to come to the world and destroy everything. But the other bad thing is that the people in this fortress are planning to create a new human race. Constantine interrupted Idligan and said, That's not fair. You told me two big problems at once. You don't expect me to solve all of them, do you? You are John Constantine, said Itligan with a smile. I have told you what I know. Itligan hadn't finished speaking yet. The next second, fierce gunshots were heard in the distance. The scene turned to the scene of the gunfight. The swamp monster was seen attacking everything in front of him like crazy. The soldiers around him were shooting at him crazily. Itligan and Constantine ran over. What the hell is going on? Zatanna replied, the people here have imprisoned the plant master. They tortured him crazily to force the green of all things to make tools for them. The swamp monster roared crazily, humans. The green of all things is reproducing for them and dying for them. The swamp monster was really angry at this time. He rolled up the captain of the soldiers and shouted, release the plant master immediately. Release the green of all things for me. Why the hell should I listen to a walking potted plant? The captain of the soldiers stopped talking. The swamp monster pulled out his entire head in a rage. Blood splattered everywhere. Constantine's face changed slightly, knowing that the situation was not good. At this time, the penguin who had been hiding and watching the show whispered to the doctor beside him. Drive Evo, it's time. The doctor called Evo immediately operated the controller in his hand. Okay, Mr. Cobblepot. This scene happened to be seen by the alert Bobo. But the next second, a muscular figure flew out from the top of the penguin and Ivo's head. This person's flying action is exactly the same as Superman, and his eyes can also release heat vision. Amato, a super bionic man who packs the superpowers of all the members of the Justice League into his own body. The moment the Amato robot appeared, the heat vision burned most of the body of the angry swamp monster. The powerful deterrent power is no less than that of Superman Clark. Just when the swamp monster was about to be burned to death, Zatanna released a barrier to block Amato's attack. The swamp monster came to his senses and was covered with flowers. That was a sign that he was about to go berserk. However, what was shocking was that there was actually more than one Amato robot as powerful as Superman. More Amato flew over from all directions. Constantine knew that he could not fight against it. He immediately looked at the teleportation array. Swamp Thing, we gotta get out of here. There's more than one of them. No, the swamp monster said crazily, they are abusing. They are torturing the green of all things. I can't just sit there and do nothing. More and more Yamoju robots rushed towards the crowd. Penguin retreated with a sinister smile on his face. Constantine shouted, Swamp Monster. We'll come back with a plan and kill these fools. But now, we have to escape from here. After Constantine's roar, the swamp monster regained its senses. Everyone jumped into the portal. Before the attack of Emojo swept everyone, they escaped from the southern fortress. Looking at the light of the portal on the ground disappearing little by little. Emojo's creator, Dr. Evo, reminded, they will come again. The penguin smiled calmly, it doesn't matter, we don't have to stay here too long, Evo. When our army is fully assembled, we will take back the world that belongs to us. As the penguin's voice continued to echo, the scene was given to a super large production workshop. On both sides of the workshop, endless Emojo robots were placed on mechanical control consoles. This was the penguin's plan, to use Emojo robots with strength comparable to Superman to eliminate all zombies. Then these villains will completely control the entire Earth. Real world, DC main universe. Batman looked at the rows of Emojo robots in front of him. He couldn't help but tremble slightly in shock. He knew these terrifying robots too well. The strength is comparable to Superman, and it can move at high speed. Flying and also has Cyclops as powerful as Superman. The last time Amazing Robot fought with Superman, Superman won with great difficulty, and at that time Amazing Robot had only one Amazing Robot. But now, in the Southland Fortress controlled by Penguin, there are thousands of amazing robots. This is equivalent to him having a Superman army of thousands of people. Not to mention the end of the world, even before the outbreak of the zombie virus, this is an unmatched force. Crazy Penguin. Thinking of this, Batman immediately called Clark. Before he could speak, Clark replied, I'm on my way to Australia to study in the Mute Kingdom. If there is really a factory manufacturing Emojo there, I will destroy it. Gotham City Underground World. Penguin looked at so many Emojo robots. His face was full of fanaticism. If I had control of such an army now, not only Gotham City, but the entire world would be mine. But Penguin's face was gloomy. He had no connection with either the Emojo robot or Dr. Evo who made them. This was probably another person he could only meet after the end of the world. So although the self in the light curtain owned the entire Southland fortress, it had basically no connection with the current self. Someone, come and find me some clues about this man called Dr. Evo. No matter what means I use, I must find a way to produce an army of Imagra. The scene on the screen came to 1 day later. At this time, Constantine and others have returned to Gotham Garden. Superman, Joe and Cyborg have also recovered under the treatment of Dr. Fate and others. Cyborg stood up from the operating table. Harley Quinn on the side immediately asked, "Your head and your body are connected again. Have you found the antidote now?" Cyborg said listlessly, "I searched every part of my body, but found nothing." Harley Quinn tilted her head. "Did the anti-life equation lie?" "Impossible," Wonder Girl denied. "With the lasso of truth, lies cannot exist. There must be an antidote." Just when everyone was discouraged, Superman Joe said, "Now that we know for sure there is an antidote, we can definitely find a way to make it. Don't forget, there are still more than 1 billion people waiting for us to save them." Superman said seriously, "We will definitely find the antidote to save them." Batman Damian said, "If there is an anti-life equation, then there must be a life equation. The key is how we unlock it." The guerrilla detective Bobo reminded, "We need the knowledge of the new gods. Darkseid once had half of the equation." Cyborg's face was grim. "Darkseid is dead. Things are deadlocked again." Just when everyone was at a loss, Constantine silently lit a cigarette and held it in his mouth. "Maybe it's time to visit an old friend. Although I don't want to disturb him, there is really nothing I can do." Everyone was slightly stunned and looked at Constantine. But they saw Constantine walking straight towards the magical girl. "Kid, the current Wonder Woman, I want to borrow something from you. And Bobo, I need your help too." Superman Joe walked up to Constantine and asked, "What do you need me to do?" Constantine waved his hand and said, "Not for now, you need to conserve your energy. We will have to rely on you to save everything from now on." After the deployment was completed, Constantine brought the guerrilla detective Bobo to a wooden house in the mountains. When the wooden door opened, a figure who was several times more decadent than Constantine appeared in front of the camera. How did you find me?" The decadent uncle in front of him was Mr. Miracle, who had helped Golden Bomber and Mr. Excellence find the time machine. At that time, in order to buy time for everyone, he and his wife Big Barda chose to stay behind and hold back the zombies. In the end, the two were overwhelmed by zombies, and Big Barda was infected and turned into a zombie. Mr. Miracle, as a super escape master with full jailbreak attributes, survived. But because of Big Barda's death, Mr. Miracle was already extremely decadent at this time. "We have the best detective here," Constantine pointed to Bobo beside him. The decadent Mr. Miracle looked at Constantine. "What do you want, John?" "I need you to save the world," Constantine said, urgently. "But the last time I saved the world, it wasn't very smooth," said Mr. Miracle sadly. "My wife became a zombie in that battle. I no longer crave for any miracles to happen." Constantine said calmly, "What if I say that Big Barda can still be saved?" Mr. Miracle turned around abruptly, only to see that Constantine had already taken out the lasso of truth. He handed it to Mr. Miracle and said, "Believe me, man, I am not lying this time." When Mr. Miracle used the lasso of truth to question Constantine, Constantine replied, "There is an antidote, man, we can save Big Barda." Mr. Miracle looked incredible, and then said in a trembling voice, "What do you want me to do?" Constantine habitually lit a cigarette. "Help me steal something from the gods. In the real world, in the Dark Avengers base." "Wow, stealing from the gods. You are indeed Uncle Constantine." Raven looked at Constantine with admiration. "But you smoke too often, it's not good for your health." Constantine seemed not to hear Raven's voice, took a puff of cigarette and said, "What is stealing from God? Have you ever cheated the devil? Do you dare to cheat under Satan's nose?" "Wait, John, I think you have overlooked a problem," Itlagan reminded, "the light curtain just now, the thing I talked to you about in the South Fortress. Don't you have anything to say about Sangong?" Constantine rolled his eyes. "Sangong destroys the world. Do you think I can stop it? Maybe we can try to sacrifice Raven, after all, he is her father." Raven's face turned pale. You are kidding, right? Zatanna shook her head helplessly. The Three Palaces demon is not something we can resist, even if we gather all the magicians in the world. Point zero. That's why Constantine avoided the question. It's not that we can't defeat him, Constantine muttered to himself, it's just that the price is really high. The screen continued to play. After Constantine's lobbying, Mr. Miracle finally returned to Gotham Garden with them. You are still alive, Mr. Miracle, Batman Damian said, looking at Miracle. Mr. Miracle also looked at Damian, and you shrunk Batman. After Mr. Miracle arrived, a meeting about blackmailing God began. The guerrilla detective Bobo said to everyone, Cyborg may have an antidote, but he can't get it out. So we need to get Metron's Mobius chair. That chair contains all the knowledge of the new gods. If there is an antidote, we will definitely find the answer in it. Dr. Fate reminded, Metron is the fastest person in the world. One of the fastest gods, we can't catch up with him. But he values knowledge above all else, Bobo said, we have to use something he can't ignore as bait. Constantine immediately took out a crystal ball. How about this? Zatanna exclaimed, Madame Xanadu's crystal ball. Does she know you have her crystal ball? Constantine chuckled, she should know now. Mr. Miracle took the crystal ball. This is a good thing, I will take Cyborg to New Genesis. Superman said, I will go with you, I believe if you have friends with you, they will accept you again. A rescue team heading to outer space began to assemble. In order to have enough manpower to defeat Metron, Superman Joe found the wandering Black Canary. At this time, Black Canary was tying up the zombie Green Arrow and staring blankly on the roof. When Superman invited her to go to outer space to snatch the Mobius chair, she agreed without hesitation. So the superheroes including Wonder Girl and Cyborg went to New Genesis, the neighboring star of Apocalypse. New Genesis and Apocalypse are celestial creations of the same era. Just like heaven and hell, New Genesis is full of vitality and birdsong, while Apocalypse is spread by the earth fire all day long and is ruled by the brutal darkside. Mr. Miracle is the son of Skyfather, the ruler of New Genesis. Later, in order to reach a truce with Apocalypse, he was imprisoned on Apocalypse and became a proton. Apocalypse has a harsh environment and is full of evil. Mr. Miracle eventually escaped from that hellish world, and was therefore honored as Mr. Miracle. At this time, Mr. Miracle, Superman, Green Lantern Canary and others were waiting for Metron to appear in the dilapidated wreckage of Apocalypse. Mr. Miracle held a crystal ball, while others were lying in ambush nearby. A white light appeared in the ruins of Apocalypse at an extremely fast speed. Everyone was refreshed, but in the white light, a human sitting on a chair was approaching here quickly. Metron came, sitting on the Mobius chair, which is known as the omniscient and omnipotent artifact. But Metron was seen floating in front of Mr. Miracle. Father said you have something for me. Is it a tool to see the future? Metron asked. Mr. Miracle immediately handed the crystal ball to him. Metron looked at the crystal ball with wisdom. Simple earth magic, but connected to something much older. I think I can use it to predict the future I want to predict. However, just when Metron was about to touch the crystal ball, the heroes who were ambushing around launched a sneak attack on him. Green Lantern Canary transformed into shackles and locked Metron's wrists. Cyborg's high-energy beam hit Metron's chest. Superman Joe tried to pull Metron off the Mobius chair. However, they underestimated Metron's strength. After several rounds, the heroes were beaten to pieces and were no match for Metron. After breaking free from Green Lantern Canary's restraints, Metron sat on the chair and prepared to escape. But Superman Joe stopped him. Sir, we only need to borrow your chair for a few minutes, as long as we get the information we need. Metron said seriously, is this your way of borrowing things? You can't get it, so you borrow it. Superman Joe tried to explain, but Metron didn't listen at all. At this moment, the magical Mary on the side used her Solomon's wisdom. Accurately pointed out the problem. If we can't stop the anti-life equation, it will spread throughout the universe. The knowledge you have or have not mastered will be completely destroyed. You are Metron, the great god of knowledge. If knowledge is gone, what is the meaning of your existence? After a barrage of verbal attacks from Magic Mary, Metron finally agreed to lend the chair to everyone temporarily. The moment Cyborg sat on the Mobius chair, cosmic knowledge instantly flooded into his mind. He saw everything, the truth of the universe and even more magnificent things. Just when he was about to get lost in the universe of knowledge. Magic Mary shouted, "Cyborg, have you found the antidote?" The magical girl next to her reminded, "I know knowledge is tempting, but can we focus on this catastrophe?" Cyborg came back to his senses. "I understood. I need to recode my blood. The anti-life equation is contained in it." Finally, after a series of twists and turns, everyone found the key to the War Saint zombie virus. Just when everyone was relaxed and thought that all the suffering was finally over, Metron returned the crystal ball to Superman Joe with a solemn face. "I can't stay here. I have to leave immediately." Sitting on the Mobius chair again, Metron fled towards the depths of the universe. It seemed that he was avoiding some more terrifying existence. However, the members of the Savior team were confused. They didn't know why Metron suddenly ran away. But this was not their current concern. As Mr. Miracle summoned the sonic boom channel, everyone returned to Earth with the steel skeleton who had obtained key information. But the perspective in the light curtain did not shift because of everyone's departure. At this time, in the wreckage of Apocalypse, countless floating meteorite fragments showed no signs of life. The camera moved to the right, and a strange figure dressed in black was sitting on a rock. He is the Black Runner, the Black Death flowing in the tunnel of time and space. He has stayed here since he was captured by Darkseid. He has been watching the changes in the world like a spectator. And now, the biggest doomsday of the whole world is coming. He has felt that in a certain meteorite, the strongest dead controlled by the anti-life equation has quietly awakened. And he will be the only spectator at the starting point of the end of the world. Quietly waiting for the arrival of the terror. Soon, roars sounded from the core area of the meteorite. Then, the meteorite shattered. The core of Apocalypse, which had long been cooled, suddenly shattered at this moment. In the shattered Apocalypse, a black shadow slowly opened his eyes. Darkseid. No longer. Die. Eternity. The supreme ruler of Apocalypse, Darkseid, emerged from the crumbling ruins. He did not die after jumping into the core of Apocalypse in a frenzy. Instead, he woke up again after 5 years of sleep. The scene came to the neighboring star of Apocalypse, New Genesis. On the New Genesis, where birds are singing and flowers are fragrant, everyone looked up. Seeing a strange red light exploding and spreading in the sky, Father God realized something and instantly shouted to try to get the residents to evacuate the planet. But it was too late. The red light on the horizon suddenly shot towards New Genesis. In a huge fireball wrapped in lava, the dead Darkseid appeared. His eyes burned with the rage of death, and he killed the superhero on New Genesis with just one hand. A terrible disaster spread on New Genesis. Wherever the dead Darkseid passed, no one was spared. All became slaves of the anti-life equation and became part of the zombie army. The New Genesis, which was once like a paradise, is very soon it became a paradise for zombies. Death quickly spread throughout the planet. In the real world, the DC main universe, Superman Clark stared at the zombie Darkseid on the light curtain. His eyes were full of solemnity. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. Although the Justice League once defeated this new god, but Superman knew what a terrifying and powerful existence Darkseid was. And now, Darkseid has become the spokesperson for death and a zombie. This made him feel even more uneasy. If a zombie virus really broke out in the world, if Darkseid turned into a zombie, what should he do to solve such a crisis? Superman thought for a long time, and suddenly smiled bitterly. Because he suddenly remembered that he seemed to be still devouring the sun in the light curtain. Zombie Darkseid would not join forces with zombie Superman. If this is true, it would be too desperate. In the Batcave, Batman, Damian and others also frowned as they looked at the light curtain. "I didn't expect that even the planet's core couldn't kill Darkseid," Nightwing said solemnly. "What is this guy made of? Steel?" Batman said calmly, "As the ruler of Apocalypse, Darkseid has a powerful strength that is not inferior to Superman. He is an ambitious new god, a very difficult being to deal with. Now he has become a servant of the anti-life equation." Damian frowned. "Does this guy have any weaknesses? Can kryptonite kill him?" Batman shook his head. "Kryptonite is only effective against Kryptonians, Darkseid. At present, there is no way to completely eliminate him." At the same time, in the Tower of Destiny in Gotham Garden, Constantine and Dr. Destiny are standing in front of a door. This is a door that even Dr. Destiny cannot see through. Inside the door is Constantine's next plan. Constantine, what are you doing? Dr. Fate said, why can't I see what's behind the door? Because the door is closed, Constantine laughed. I am Dr. Fate, I can see the fate behind closed doors. What on earth did you hide in there? Constantine said casually, it's just a pile of clothes and underwear. Dr. Fate frowned, why can't I open this door? Maybe you just didn't turn the doorknob. There was no doorknob on the door. But when Constantine put his hand over, a magical scene happened. There was an extra door handle on the door out of nowhere. Don't worry about Dr. Fate, this is the Tower of Fate. Constantine opened the door mysteriously. No matter what is in the door, everything is destined. Constantine walked into the door and blocked Dr. Fate outside. The scene turned to the room. Constantine was still holding his eternal cigarette. In front of him was a magic circle burning with fire. And on the magic circle stood a demon. The fire demon Itligan. What brings you here? Imitating Merlin's little guard. Constantine put his hands in his pockets. Can't you just stop pursuing rhyme too much? You know why I'm looking for you. How long will it take for Sangong to come to Earth? Itligan snorted coldly. You must be afraid. The furious king of hell will meet you soon. Constantine was a little confused. Can you give me an exact time? When will he come? The devil's heart is filled with rage. I think 3 days is the deadline. Until life dies here. Constantine looked at the shadows in another place. He saw the swamp monster also appeared in the room. The 3 palaces will descend upon Earth in 3 days, and we don't have much time left. Swamp monster, you don't want the green of all things to completely disappear in 3 days, do you? The swamp monster said hoarsely, yes. What's your plan, Constantine? Constantine pinched his chin. In the current situation, if we want to turn the tide of the war, we must use some extreme measures. We need help, but the helper can't be a saint like Superman. Damian is good, and Red Hood. Our actions will hurt some good people, but that is a necessary sacrifice for the greater victory. The scene turns to Gotham Garden. Batman Damian is teasing a pet dog. Compared with Bruce Wayne, Damian Wayne still has some surprises in terms of personality. Constantine comes to Damian. Are you as good as your dad? Not yet, Damian said. But it's very close, isn't it? Constantine smiled. Seeing Constantine looking straight at him, Damian frowned slightly. What do you need? I need to do something that the Saints cannot accept. But it will be dangerous. I need a combat team to protect my safety. Damian looked skeptical. You have to tell me the whole truth. If you lie to me, I will see it. Constantine picked up a cigarette. In fact, you can't tell. Seeing Damian staring at him without blinking, Constantine sighed helplessly, and then told him his plan. After listening to Damian, a look of surprise appeared on his face. This is really a crazy plan. Your plan includes killing some good people. Constantine laughed. People who have died will not die again. You can't change your mind. This is the only way to save the world. Damian was silent for a moment and nodded. You said you need a team. Where are the others now? Constantine smiled. They are all waiting for you. When the 2 stopped on a meadow, there were several people standing there. Damian looked at the familiar figure and couldn't help but ask, spring outing of the Bat family, the Marauders, and the Swamp Thing. The people in front of him were Marauder Rose, Red Hood, and Batgirl Cassandra Cain. Red Hood snorted. In fact, I'm married to Rose. Batgirl added, she's a family member now. The escort team was assembled, and then everyone would proceed to the next task. Constantine didn't know when he put on the Ragged Man's cloak. He said to the swamp monster, my magic can't reach where we're going. But Swamp Thing can, and he once used my body to make a baby with his ex-girlfriend. Can we not talk about this? The swamp monster said hoarsely. We can choose to join forces, connect the green of all things, and cross the world. In a blink of an eye, in front of a temple located in the mountains. The swamp monster found the place Constantine was looking for in a reddish-brown posture. The escort team immediately opened the portal and walked out. At this time, in the real world, Zatanna looked at Constantine and then at the swamp monster with a stunned look. If I heard correctly just now, did the swamp monster give birth to a child using Constantine's body? Itligan showed a disgusted look. Constantine, I still underestimated your bottom line. Raven's face flushed slightly. I didn't expect that the swamp monster also wanted to have a baby. Deadman Brad smiled bitterly. After all, the two are friends. Not only the Dark Justice League is discussing this matter. Anyone who has a relationship with Constantine from all over the world. At this moment, they all showed strange expressions. It was really that this guy's actions were too against the will of heaven, and it was completely unexpected. Constantine also felt a little socially dead at this time. He waved his hand and said, "Can you watch the light screen quietly? Don't you want to know what my plan is?" With Constantine's reminder, the picture on the light screen continued to play. Under the leadership of the swamp monster, everyone arrived at a mysterious city called South Darba. Outside the city of South Darba, a group of zombies wearing Assassin's League uniforms were rushing towards them. If you want to enter the city of South Darba, you must kill the group of zombies in front of you. So the next second, everyone in the Bat family took action. After a series of violent killings, everyone came to the city gate. My friends, long time no see. The one who opened the door turned out to be the dead Brand. He suddenly opened the door and floated in the air. Then, many warriors holding sticks poured out from the city of Nandalba. With the joint efforts of the warriors, the zombies were defeated, and everyone successfully entered the city of Nandalba. The plunderer looked at the dead Brand with a puzzled look. "Dead, I shouldn't have seen you, right?" Brand explained. "In the city of Rama Hassan, the laws of everything are different. My friends, follow me. I will treat you with wine and snacks." But Constantine did not come here to reminisce with old friends. He focused his eyes on the city center of South Dalba. In the golden light column there, a spear was slowly floating. The Spear of Destiny, according to legend, is a spear that can kill even gods. When everyone approached the Spear of Destiny, Constantine grabbed it without hesitation. "Constantine, what are you doing?" Brand's face changed slightly. It was Rama Hassan, the guardian goddess of Nandarba, who appeared in front of him. "Is this what you are here for, Hell Detective?" Rama Hassan stopped him. "I can't allow you to take the Spear of Destiny. There are enough dead outside. You can live here, Constantine, but you can't take the Holy Spear." Constantine murmured, "I know what you mean. But there is no other choice." In the stunned eyes of everyone, Constantine stabbed the Spear of Destiny into Rama Hassan's abdomen. Everyone was shocked by the scene before their eyes. It was hard to imagine that Constantine would do such a thing. Dead Brand rushed towards Rama Hassan, who was lying in a pool of blood. "Why, Constantine?" Brand was furious and rushed towards Constantine angrily. However, Constantine had already prepared a countermeasure. He took out the ragged man's cloak expressionlessly. "I never felt the need to explain too much to a dead person." The moment the voice fell, Constantine threw out the cloak. To read the exciting novel, go to Falu Novel Network. But the next second, a golden vortex appeared in the cloak. A huge suction swept in from the cloak. The suction did not act on matter, but it was fatal to spirits. So in the stunned eyes of everyone, Constantine used the tattered clothes to absorb the dead Brand. Everyone, including Damian, was stunned. "Constantine, what's going on? What did you do?" Constantine said expressionlessly, "We should go." Before everyone could react, a portal leading to the next mission location was created. When everyone entered the portal, Red Hood could not help but ask, "What happened to the scout just now? You seem to have stabbed a god to death just now." Constantine held the Spear of Destiny and lit a cigarette. "Don't worry, the wound is not fatal, she just needs a few centuries to heal it. But if I bargain with her, she will never let me take the Spear of Destiny. We are in a hurry, understand?" Batgirl looked around the dark cave. "Where have you brought us now?" "Eternal Rock," the swamp monster answered. At this time, the swamp monster was all red, and from its expression to its behavior, it was no longer the friendly house monster before. Now it was a little bit angry. "This is the home of the wizard Shazam, we need his staff. To be honest, I hope we can sit down and talk calmly." Red Hood behind him complained, "If we can't reach an agreement, are you going to stab him too?" While they were talking, a flash of lightning suddenly exploded in the darkness not far away. Realizing that the situation was not good, the Predator immediately took out his double guns and fought back. However, it was too late. A zombie wearing a Superman cape rushed towards the Red Hood. The huge force was comparable to that of Superman, and in just a moment, the Red Hood was knocked into the wall. The person who came was Captain Marvel, a member of the magic family who obtained the power of Shazam. Captain Marvel gave a shrill roar and tried to tear apart the other members. Countless red roots suddenly grew out of the ground. It bounded in place like a tentacle. It was the vines that the swamp monster controlled. The fierce battle continued, and Batman threw a grenade that exploded in the face of the zombie Captain Marvel. But it didn't cause any harm at all. "We have to find the staff," Constantine said. "Only a pure heart can gain the power of a wizard." During the fight, Batgirl was thrown to a remote corner. There, she saw the staff discarded on the ground. The moment she picked up the staff, a force of thunder shot from the top of her head and entered Batgirl's body. In an instant, the magical Bat the Plunderer appears. She uses the power of thunder to press the zombie Captain Marvel into the ground. Then she kills him in no time. The sight comes to the ground on the other side. Under the impact of Captain Marvel, Red Hood finally couldn't withstand the heavy blow. He died completely in the arms of the Plunderer. The blood dyed the ground red, and the people who gathered around were full of sadness. The Plunderer cried and asked Constantine, "Promise me. All this is worth it. Jason's death was worth it." Constantine sighed, "I promise this is the only way. If this is not the only way, we will all die." Batman Damian stared at Constantine with a frown. "You killed your good friend, the dead Brand." Constantine pretended to be relaxed. "I won't kill a living person, but Brand has been dead for a long time. I just did what I needed to do." "You fool." Damian punched Constantine on the cheek. Not only because of the dead Brand, but more importantly, his brother Red Hood also died in the mission. But Constantine didn't care at all, and didn't even show a bit of sadness. Constantine fell to the ground, but no one helped him up. Everyone walked away from him in disappointment. Constantine remained calm, and he silently lit a cigarette. The next second, the real world in front of him suddenly disappeared. A mysterious man in a cloak appeared in front of him silently. More precisely, when Constantine was holding the Spear of Destiny and the Staff of Shazam at the same time, a god from another dimension felt his life was threatened and instantly appeared in front of Constantine. The man was wearing a huge green hood and his face was livid. When he appeared, Constantine was not surprised. Instead, he laughed and said, "Wow, that's surprising. What do you think of the punch I just received, Wrathful Spirit?" The Wrathful Spirit, also known as the Ghost, said hoarsely, "You hold a weapon that can kill me. I feel uneasy when you hold a weapon in your hand. I might stop what you're doing, Constantine. But you are a ghost, the great spirit of vengeance." Constantine said calmly, "What do you think my motive is, Jimmy?" The ghost was silent for 3 seconds and chose to leave the scene. "So what on earth is that Constantine doing?" Dead Brand frowned. "He actually used that soul cloak against me, and I thought we were friends." Constantine smiled bitterly and said, "There's nothing we can do about it during this special period. Someone has to make sacrifices." Zatanna frowned. "So what are you going to do?" "The Spear of Destiny and the Wizard Shazam's staff." Raven added, "And the tattered clothes that absorbed Brand's soul." Lady Chengdu smiled slightly, "And the crystal ball that was stolen from me." "Why do you collect these artifacts, Constantine?" Constantine thought about it carefully, and suddenly sighed and said, "Isn't my target very obvious among the people in the light curtain? I'm going to kill the god, the Raven's father, Trinita." Raven was immediately surprised. "You want to kill my father? Is this really possible?" Zatanna frowned. "Trinita is a cross-dimensional evil god. You are just a half-baked magician, how can you kill it?" "But there is no other choice, right?" Constantine calmly took a puff of his cigarette. "The superheroes are all trying their best to fight against the zombie apocalypse, and I am the only one who can deal with the troublesome Sangong demon. That's not just a headache, he is a god. Even Darkseid is just a new god, while Sangong is an ancient god that existed in ancient times." In the complicated eyes of the crowd, the picture on the screen continued to play. The sight shifted again to the laboratory of the Australian mute. "South Fortress," Penguin asked impatiently, "are they all ready?" "It's almost done, Penguin," Dr. Evo replied, "but I still need to make some fine-tuning. Because even a tiny miscalculation could mean that these Yamojo androids will not only wipe out all anti-life on Earth. They will also destroy us. But you promised me, Evo, the Penguin showed a doubtful look. You won't make a mistake on this matter. However, before Penguin could finish his words, two Yamojuo floated into the air behind him. Their eyes glowed red, and they were about to burn Penguin to charcoal in the next second. Dr. Evo no longer concealed his ambition and said, considering that I am the commander of an army of bionic people that can destroy the Earth, should you reconsider the tone you use when talking to me? The Penguin's face changed slightly. But Evo continued, the matter of the living dead can wait a little longer. I still need time to debug. At the same time, in Gotham Garden, Cyborg, who recoded his blood, obtained the life equation. But problems also followed. I don't know how to turn the life equation into a cure. There are too many things involved. If I were to do the research alone, it would probably take more than a decade. Batman said, so we need the best biologist in the world to help you analyze it. Biologist. Cyborg thought about it carefully. As far as I know, all the famous biologists are dead or turned into zombies. But there is one exception, Batman said, although he is dead, he can still use his intelligence. Under the puzzled gaze of Cyborg, Batman found the swamp monster standing quietly in the flowers. It will take a genius biologist to complete the antidote, Batman said to Swamp Thing. Please let Dr. Alex Holland return. I know he is inside you now. The Swamp Thing was created by the green of all things absorbing the remains and memories of Alex Holland. When Batman proposed to let Holland return, the Swamp Thing said hoarsely, Holland is indeed a smart biologist, but he alone may not be able to analyze the equation of life. Of course there is more than one, Batman laughed. The scene changed to the grass of Gotham Garden. 9 superheroes gathered together at Batman's call. Dr. Fate connected the psychic energy to everyone's mind through the green of all things, forming a brain connection. Their brains are all connected together. Alex Holland, a biochemist who won the Nobel Prize. Poison Ivy, who was once a doctor of toxicology. Harley Quinn, a doctor of psychology and medicine. Cyborg, the core character who masters the equation of life. Wonder Mary, who has all the wisdom of Solomon. Kid Flash, who has the fastest mind in the world. Gorilla's Detective Bobo, the greatest problem solver. And the last one, Batman. The 9 superheroes' brains are connected together under the control of Dr. Fate. To read the violent novels, go to Philo Novel Network. Everyone plays to the best of their respective fields' advantage. Finally, after the brainstorming sessions, Cyborg got all the steps to make the antidote. However, just as they appealed to the public and promised to rescue everyone. On the other side, in the South Fortress, Dr. Evo also announced a mobilization meeting to dispatch the amazing army to wipe out all the zombies in the world. Superman Joe assured everyone that he would rescue all the humans who had turned into zombies. And the Penguin assured the nobles of the South Fortress that he would destroy all the zombies on the Earth. So, on both sides of the Earth, the two forces started to act almost at the same time. The amazing army of the South Fortress took off. The scorching high-temperature beams continued to sweep across the zombie swarms surrounding the South Fortress. Millions of zombies were killed instantly by the thermal vision. Wherever the amazing army passed, no grass was left. At the same time, in Gotham Garden, Cyborg showed everyone the successfully developed antidote. In order to verify whether the antidote is effective, everyone injected the antidote into Big Barda and Green Arrow one after another. The result is exciting. The antidote is successful, and the two have transformed from zombies to humans again. The next thing to do is to mass-produce the antidote and then inject the antidote into zombies all over the world. At this time, in the Tower of Destiny, Constantine was sitting on the sofa, drinking and smoking. The furious Zatanna kicked the door and rushed in. Constantine, what did you do behind my back? Constantine stood up awkwardly. But besides the ragged clothes on the ground, there were 4 artifacts floating around him. Seeing the artifacts, Zatanna's face was full of doubts. The wizard Shazam's staff, Madame Xanadu's crystal ball, the spear of destiny and the tattered man's uniform. Don't tell me Jason died because of these things. Constantine showed a tired look. I need these things to do something I have to do. But I need your help. Zatanna frowned. Do you think I will believe you, a liar? What is your plan? Constantine smiled helplessly. If I tell you, you will definitely stop me. But the fact is that I saw the inevitable future, and it was a terrible war. And I am trying to stop the tragedy and use the smallest sacrifice to exchange for the final victory. Da da da, da da da. As he was talking, a mysterious man in gentleman's suit and tall hat walked in from the door. The moment he saw that man, Constantine couldn't help but curse. I spent so much time protecting this room, Xiaoza, and you left the door open when you came. Now any person can come in. Constantine, you don't seem to welcome me. The man's voice was low, exuding a mysterious aura. We just got rid of one plague god and now another one is coming, Constantine said with a depressed look. Who are you talking about? Zatanna asked. Constantine looked helpless. The ghost knew about my collection of divine weapons, and he came to me. Now, even the phantom stranger has come. The phantom stranger calmly walked up to Constantine and said, John, you can't continue on this path. That's a road of no return. Constantine said nonchalantly, if I don't continue, the world will end. You are a guy who claims to never meddle in other people's business, but you are meddling in other people's business too much. The phantom stranger looked at Zatanna on the side. She probably doesn't know that you stabbed Rama Hassan with the spear of destiny, right? You also imprisoned Boston Brand. Zatanna was confused. John, what did you do? Constantine looked at the phantom stranger with cold eyes. I am willing to do things I don't want to do. Because it has to be done. Are you really qualified to judge me after you have committed a crime that has brought you eternal fool? You two-faced idiot. Before Constantine could finish his curse, he was pushed against the wall behind him by the broken phantom stranger. Constantine wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, held the spear of destiny and shouted, Go on, hit it. If you dare. The conflict between the two was interrupted by the sudden appearance of fire. The fire demon Itlagan walked out of the flames and brought them the worst news. The three-palace demon is coming. But besides the three palaces coming to the earth to destroy the world, Ethelgan also brought another bad news to everyone. That is, the amazing legion of the southern fortress has also been dispatched. Wherever they pass, no grass grows. The amazing legion is cleaning up all the humans on the earth who are controlled by the anti-life equation. These humans originally had a chance to be reborn, but they were ruthlessly slaughtered and crushed by amazing. In Gotham Garden, all the heroes gathered. Everyone began to discuss these things. We have to go fight the amazing legion and produce the antidote as quickly as possible. As the Flash, Wally played a huge role in this process. With the help of Swamp Monster and Steel Bone, he exerted his speed force. It took less than half an hour to produce a large amount of antidote for the life equation. However, just when everyone was confidently ready to save the Earth completely. In Paris, accompanied by a roar, a huge figure with flames all over his body broke out of the ground. He held the spear of hell and was tens of meters tall. Wherever he passed, buildings were engulfed in flames. Those zombies who tried to pounce on him were instantly ignited and turned into ashes before they got close. Half an hour later, the whole of Paris was the fire of hell covered. All zombies, including the humans who were still lingering, were burned to ashes by the horrible fire of hell. The whole of Paris was filled with gray smoke. At the same time, in the Tower of Destiny, Constantine began his final plan. He brought Dr. Fate to his room. Dr. Fate had always been curious about what was in Constantine's room. This time, Constantine invited him into the room. As the door of the room was opened, Dr. Fate saw everything inside the door. Then he was stunned. 4 powerful magic artifacts, powerful enough to kill gods. Then there are Phantom Stranger and Ethelagan. But Constantine calmly put on the ragged clothes that seal the dead brand. In fact, these cannot guarantee the success of my plan, Constantine smiled and looked at Dr. Fate. But the next second, before Dr. Fate could react, Phantom Stranger pierced Dr. Fate with the spear of destiny. Dr. Fate fell to his knees on the ground powerlessly. Why? Phantom Stranger. Sorry, said the Phantom Stranger, this is also part of Constantine's plan. He needs your helmet. Dr. Fate said coldly, my helmet will not be taken off by anyone, including Constantine. But Constantine smiled and held the Shazam staff. I can't, but he can. Shazam. As Constantine shouted, lightning struck Constantine. He turned into Shazam. Dr. Fate felt his head buzzing when he saw this scene. How is this possible? Only the purest souls can gain the power of Shazam. Constantine, your soul cannot be pure. Haha, of course, my soul is extremely dirty. Constantine laughed at himself, but the dead brand trapped in the rags is a pure soul. It turned out that Constantine used the rags to absorb the dead brand in order to control the power of Shazam. Constantine took Dr. Fate's helmet and amulet. So far, he has collected all the artifacts to fight against the Three Palaces demon. Don't worry, everyone, Constantine said to everyone with a smile, I saw my future in the crystal ball. I will live after defeating the Three Palaces demon, and I will see you alive again. Australia, the overwhelming army of Yamoju is slaughtering the zombies on this land. Each Yamoju bionic man is strong enough to challenge the entire Justice League. And now, thousands of Yamoju are flying in the air like locusts. But even with such a powerful enemy, the Justice League still showed up. With the opening of the Sonic Boom channel, a new version of the Justice League debuted. Batgirl who gained the power of Shazam, Wonder Girl holding the lasso of truth. Amazing. Mary with the power of Shazam and the one who was recognized by the Green Lantern ring. Black Canary. The heroes appeared, and they began to fight against the army of Amazing. The scene changed to the sky above the Southland Fortress. To read the exciting novels, go to Falu Novel Network. Batman Damian and Superman Joe arrived at the fortress. But the process of entering the fortress was not smooth. An Amazing that stayed here attacked them. After a series of difficult battles, the extraordinary twins finally defeated the enemy. Superman took off the head of Amazing and entered the fortress with Batman. However, the moment they stepped into the fortress, countless guns were pointed at the two. This is the kryptonite bullet I prepared for you, the Penguin looked at Superman and Batman calmly. Just when the Penguin was about to kill them, they suddenly felt a strong sense of suffocation. Their necks seemed to be strangled by some invisible force. All the villains collapsed to the ground in a short time. At this time, above the South Fortress, Constantine, wearing the helmet of destiny and the six-god suit, appeared here. He opened his hands, and his ragged clothes suddenly turned into a hungry beast that absorbed evil souls. Under the roar of the beast, all the villains, including the Penguin, their souls were sucked into the cloak in an instant. With the sacrifice of tens of thousands of souls, the power of tattered clothes soared to the peak. Constantine, a six-piece magician with full magic points. He casually waved his arm, and a magic channel appeared in front of him. The next second, he walked into the channel and instantly arrived at the battlefield in Paris. Next, Hell Detective Constantine will face the Three Palaces and have a final battle with him. Superman and Batman, who returned from the Southland Fortress, handed the defeated head of the Amazing to Cyborg. They tried to let Cyborg reverse the program and destroy all the Amazing army. At this time, the European land was in a mess. The killing of the Three Palaces demon continued. Not far from his huge body, Zatanna and the Phantom Stranger were floating in the sky. They tried to stop the killing of the Three Palaces demon. However, the Three Palaces demon is a powerful dimensional demon. The Phantom Stranger was trampled under the feet of the Three Palaces demon at the first sight, and his life or death was uncertain. The powerful demon exuded a desperate temperament. Just when the magic heroes felt extremely desperate, a light blue magic portal appeared out of thin air. Then, a strong breath of magic gushed out from the passage. The magic was so strong that even the Three Palaces demon subconsciously stopped to check. In the passage, Constantine, wearing the six-god suit, slowly walked out. Constantine now has the power of almost all the god-killing weapons on Earth. He has the speed of Mercury, the power of Zeus, and the power of Hercules. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.